My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. This is 1801. This is Crossing Path. Hi. Quick question. Do you have any coffee cups and towels? Towel? Yeah. She's monitoring and she's a demon. This is impossible light activity. And so is And that's the government that she's stalking. And she's monitoring my vagina as an entity inside of the hotel room. See, aquí. Can I have a towel and some coffee cups? This is the entity that's in surveillance inside of my room on behalf of the co-conspirators of murder, the city of Ontario, stalking by helicopter. Doing so, I want to be clear, Ontario Airport Inn is going to be prosecuted for conspiring murder, and the entity is engaged in surveillance on the internet. There's no coincidence. While the entity is stalking by helicopter, these are the suicidal demons engaging in worldwide exposed surveillance in Ontario. And they are demons. This is P.O.C. That's the entity that's directly exposing the people of the state. This is a demon. And they're subject to deportation, they're subject to prison, loss of custody of children, and it's also 1801 East G Street. Psychopathic pacing, stalking by plane, psychopathic pacing, stalking by helicopter, psychopathic pacing while you're walking, pacing outside of my room where you're keeping me under surveillance, and this is the impossible light activity speaking to Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are still gang stalking and furtherance of murder, sharing in that with Mike Lorenz, who is going to prison. This is the pattern. And this is the absence of any coincidence. They're not strangers. They're sharing in that P.O.C., knowing exactly where I'm at. Everybody in rooms 249 through 259 are sharing in the P.O.C. And everybody in the neighborhood. This is Encore Apartments. There's no sun over the Ovid Family Community Library either. It's literally directly over me, where my shadow's above my head, where the entity's stalking by plane and helicopter, sharing in that identical pattern of conduct, which, by the way, the U.S. federal government is sharing in. This is a demon that's engaged in sensational activity. While you're rolling that, there's no earthquake. But when I'm in the room, that's the ongoing terrorism that Ontario Airport Inn is engaging in. That's, again, public information concerning my vagina, and that's the entity that's conspired my murder. Mike Lorenz is going to prison. So is the psychopath you saw engaging in kidnapping with the entity, Craig Hazelwood and Owens. This is the entity that's doing so, the demon-possessed that stalk and monitor and surveil and conspire murder like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, the husband and wife, that engaged in criminal defamation with the Ontario police, the city of Ontario, who are demons, who are going to be not only put in prison, but they're going to be put in mental wards, as are the demon-possessed people of the state. This P.O.C. is currently 12:22 p.m., where the entity already has the fake sun, as I showed you, after 5 p.m. That video, it's on the same side of this apartment complex while I'm standing at that end of the parking lot, as I documented in November of 2025. This is the pattern of conduct by the demons who are openly engaging in what are exposing that they've conspired my murder, and that's relevant to the prosecution. It is 12:47 p.m. So the entity that you can clearly hear is engaged in what is gang stalking and targeting inside of a hotel room, which is an exceedingly violent sex offense committed as a public entity that is engaged in stalking one person in concert with the government. This is gang stalking, and it's demonic activity. It is mental illness that is shared by that population that is in fact proven to be stalking. And they are stalking in a readily identifiable environment that is also relevant and probative in establishing mental illness by that corrupt entity that is acting as a population to stalk one person. The one that is gang stalking is mentally ill. The one that is gang stalking is a co-conspirator with the government, in the shoes of the government, a co-conspirator of murder. The videos that you're listening to are the demons that are engaging in that. So you have a demon by virtue of condition, and this demon is doing nothing other than wearing a housekeeping uniform. This demon-possessed person is a Latina female. This demon-possessed person is an employee of the hotel, the innkeeper, a third-party status. This demon that is dressed in or holding this position as a housekeeper, dressed as a housekeeper, a third-party status in the shoes of the state, not private property. None of it is private conduct. None of it is constitutionally protected because of the revelation of the environment. My shadows above my head, my shadows are appearing, multiple shadows in the depths of the hotel room that is, all of it's covered by shade, and the sun is never under any circumstances going to be in a position to provide an explanation for it, meaning the sun is not going, even the demons have done that though, they've done that. The sun is so low, and that's supposed to be what you're looking at, the reason for the sunlight that's shooting like a laser inside of a building, inside of a room. That's not the sun that is beside us, okay? The sun is over us. The sun is far above the structures that we dwell in, that we go inside of. The entity is stalking under a fake sun. The entity is stalking with impossible light. The entity is stalking under a fake sun with regard to who is being targeted, who is under surveillance, whose life is under threat with regard to murder by a gang stalking police department who are with impunity, clearly exposing, like they've been doing for years. And like the entity Jason Fields and Tracy Banks and the demon-possessed housekeeper, the demon-possessed leaf blower, the demon-possessed that are on the roads and the highways on G Street. They're engaged in psychopathic pacing. And that's what they're doing in the planes, flying, they're crossing path, they're stalking under the law while they're on monitoring. This is demonic activity, which is being criminalized as it's proving through tangible evidence what is a pattern that the demon-possessed share in while they are stalking as a population. And this is the system that the terrorist leaders, this husband and wife, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, they share in while they have conspired my murder. Now, this is the desire, the plan of Tracy Banks, who is, I just want to be clear, under the theory, the prosecution of a government that's gang stalking, the entities, hitmen, the demons that are checking in at a hotel rooms, under the law, these are all hitmen. The entity is at any time, at all times, in a position to take your life and then control the narrative. That's why they're gang stalking in the first place. The entity is defaming you. The entity is stalking, harassing, and doing so in a demonic, that is a malicious manner, to falsely depict your character. And then when you suffer that demise, the entity is then blaming that target individual. And what is it, the synonym for blaming? What is legally relevant? The entity is claiming that you're the drug addict, you're the paranoid schizophrenic, you're the crazy person, you're the one that's harassing everyone, you're the one that's attacking people, you're the one that's a criminal, you're the one that's, at fault for why the police shot you, you're the one that's at fault for why the police arrested you, which is a kidnapping and murder, is what I'm describing. You're the one whose fault it is while you were kidnapped inside of a medical facility where they are kidnapping you and defaming you, and then your demise, you end up dead, you engage in, all manner of being subject to violence while this same pattern of conduct, by the way, gang stalking, which is demonic activity. So they're engaging in this demonic system inside of the medical facilities, inside of the jails, inside of the courts, inside, as I'm showing you, of any building like the Ovid Family Community Library, like my hotel room, like on the roads and the highways, like inside of a vehicle, like on public transportation, Omnitrans. I've given every iteration of the pattern of conduct where it's shown through that environment. Now, the entity is engaging in this, and what you're listening to, the videos that you just captured, this is speaking to the entity that's indeed engaged in surveillance. So not only are you stalking, Mike LORENZ is keeping me under surveillance, keeping my vagina under surveillance, and Mike LORENZ is going to prison, stalking me by helicopter moments after I publish on X the fact that he is going to prison for conspiring my murder and is a part of the pattern of conduct. Not only that, not a part of it, but he is a terrorist leader, as the Ontario police are shown to be, first of all, not having any authority under the municipal code. That was the guise under which that stalking police department is engaging in kidnapping. And the entity is engaged in what is activity by using the phone in my room. This is what the entity is engaging in. I want to be clear at 12:22 p.m. when I'm capturing the entity's pattern to come to actually want to document this. This is Erica. You weren't able to service the room? That's so coincidental that you say that when I just got service. Who told you that? You're Kimberly, right? Yeah, I just got service. I literally just spoke to your housekeeper who was outside of my room. That would have been 2:47. And I observed the beautiful weather and everything. She gave me towels. She gave me what I requested. So what is it exactly that, when did you get this report? Uh-huh. If I would like that, I don't need it right now. I'm busy. I'll contact you guys and let you know I'm busy right now. You have to make entry? Where's that on my receipt? That you have to come into the room during my stay that's paid in full. Right, and when you're stating you ask, or you're requiring that you enter my room without my... Yeah, I wanted to know, where's that on the receipt? I haven't seen that you have to do so, and that there's a limitation of nights where you require a guest to permit you to enter the room, even if they don't request it. Is there a policy where I can refer to that? Where can I refer to that policy? You have it written in print where I can access it? Is it on the website?
Oh, I'm really familiar with your website. What's your manager's name, by the way? No problem. This is activity creation, including as they are seeking to require, as I'm documenting, and they're threatening my life with the Ontario Police, that I enter or permit entry, and the entities engaged in the P.O.C. Yes, ma'am. This is Kimberly, right? What's your last name, Kimberly? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. It is, by the way, 12:55 p.m. This is all activity creation. Hi, Lewis. How can I help you guys? Not really. I was transferred to the manager because I was told that I have to open up the hotel room for you guys to enter in, and I wasn't told, and that's also new. I've stayed on multiple nights at this hotel before, and also many others. And I know if I need service, but this is not a like I'm not staying for a month or anything, and I'm also checking out tomorrow. And I also just got service from the housekeeper, so that's why I find it to be so interesting and coincidental that I get a call that I have to let you guys in the room right now, or period, actually, if I don't need any assistance. What is considered a long stay then? Yeah, I've done that before and nobody called my room and required that I stay. I've stayed on more than one occasion, and that was in 2025. It was in November, and before that I believe it was October, and no one has ever called like Kimberly did today at approximately 12:50 p.m. requiring that I permit the housekeeper that I was speaking to outside, actually, who gave me what I needed, towels and toilet paper and tissue and whatnot. And that's the extent of the service that I do require. I understand that I'm staying on multiple nights. It's just that I was not told about this policy when I checked in, and this is not the first time that I've checked in either, for more than one night. There is no problem. It's just that I'm busy right now, and I was told that you guys have to come in. The problem is that my room is paid for, and I don't need anybody to come in right now, and it's interrupting what it is that I'm doing. That's the problem. And it's actually the principle, like, why would you need to come into the room if I'm staying here? No, I understand that. If I need it though, I don't need it. So I've never heard of that. Well, we have to come in. Period. I'm not staying for a month. I'm checking out tomorrow actually, and it has never been an issue before. That's the problem, sir. Is that clear? Right. That sounds like an excellent general policy. It just doesn't sound like it's the black and white policy of the company. It's not on the website. It's not on a receipt. It's not recited to me, if you wouldn't mind. It's not recited. Never has it ever been uttered when I am making payment and entering into the room. And like I stated on previous occasions, this has never been the case. So it's as though you want to come in. I don't have a problem with upkeep as well. I keep the room perfectly fine. Right. Oh, so it's something, right, whether you want to enforce it or not. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Enforce it. Uh-huh. Wouldn't that be something that they do when they're doing their cleans out? Oh, no, no, no. I want to speak with you, so can I ask you a question, please? Is that okay? Luis, right? Okay, my question, that's why I wanted to speak with you, sir. The housekeepers are accomplishing that when they're going through their rounds, are they not? Are they not accomplishing that when they're going from room to room? You have housekeepers, do you not? I'm going to repeat it again. When the housekeepers are doing their rounds, when people check in and out of their rooms, when they go from room to room, are they not accomplishing that? What it is that you're stating you're going to quote unquote enforce. Are they not outside of the rooms going from room to room? No, this is not confrontational. I'm asking a question so that I can understand what exactly. Wait, let me repeat the question again. No, I don't think that you just don't like the fact that the policy is nonsensical, actually. Do what? What did I do to your staff? 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 Now you're bullying. What did I do to your staff, sir? No, I'm asking you a question, and I asked to speak to the manager. Can I please get a response to my question as an ongoing patron who is entitled to the information? I'm sorry if you don't like that I'm asking the information, but this room is paid for. That's not... Accept. Okay, I really do not understand what you mean you don't accept. What is it that is hard about asking a question? Is there someone else that can answer my question then? With asking I need to speak with a manager that can answer my question, please. I need to speak with someone that can answer my question, please. So I can't speak with someone to answer my question, but yet you're stating that. Now you're telling me I can't ask a question. Now you're telling me I can't get an answer to the question? No, that's not an argument, that's a question. Asking a question. To answer the question. Right, answer the question. Luis, right? What's your last name? What's your name, sir? Mejia? You're Luis Mejia, who has a disdain for answering the customer's question? How am I... Oh, wow, you are putting in a lot. You're projecting. Is there anything else you want to insult me with? Because I'm asking questions that you don't find complimentary to policies that you want to enforce when you feel like it? It's not... Luis Mejia, you said? This is hilarious. Luis Mejia, right? Okay, and it is currently 1:02 p.m. This is while the Ontario police are disrupting me in my stay, and then you're calling me trying to enforce me to let the housekeeper that I just spoke to into the room. Is there anything else you'd like to state, Mr. Mejia? Is there anything else that you would like to? Because I'm being disrupted by the entity. Is there anything else? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mejia. Are you the only manager on the premises? Are you the only one? Okay, this is harassment. I just want to let you know that, including threatening to come into the hotel room that is already paid for, and then while I'm asking questions and your disdain for answering them, and then projecting your harassing conduct onto me, where you cannot refer to a written policy about coming in to clean my room where I just got it serviced, and the housekeepers are on a daily basis providing services that you can equally request. Is there anything else? Because you are actually harassing me, Mr. Mejia, and then not answering my questions, which are entirely legitimate. I hope this phone call is recorded. Is this recorded? Is this recorded? No, you've been calling me, you've been very combative, and this is not a distraction. This is adding on to what is being documented, just so that you know that. It's not a distraction. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. You'll be hearing from me. So will Ontario Airport Inn. Thank you. That's fine. Okay, bye. That's P.O.C. That's Luis Mejia. That is Kimberly, and they're engaging in that while I am documenting the pattern of conduct. So that's directly relevant to the entity that's engaging in the P.O.C., the engineer light, the entity stalking by helicopter. Understand that that is the entity that's engaging in the P.O.C. with the intent to obstruct justice, harassment, while you're engaged in what is vagina monitoring, while you're engaged in targeting and furtherance of murder. Luis Mejia is a co-conspirator of murder, harassing with the intent to obstruct justice, and this is the entity that engages in terrorism. The entity entity is doing that while they are being documented online. And so what I want to document is while they're referring to what is an unwritten policy, it's not on the website. It's also not policy. I've been targeted and gang stalked multiple hotels, including at the Ontario Airport Inn, which is a part of the record, and for multiple nights. And they are not forcing you to let them into your hotel room. This is an entity that's engaged in activity creation by calling the phone. Nobody called the phone at all. Okay, and they're engaging in activity creation by then just stating anything, including something that is a failed effort at distracting from what I'm going to go right back to, because this is exactly what the housekeeper was doing while I'm looking at the videos on the internet regarding the pattern of conduct of the police stalking me while I'm inside of my hotel room in the engineered environment, while I'm under surveillance, in other words, by Louis Mejia and Kimberly, who are referring to what are means of harassing me by coming in to monitor, and you're forcing me to do that, and you can't tell me about a policy, and then I'm asking to speak with someone that can tell me about a policy, and you're still talking about an unwritten, never unspecified policy that is never addressed also when you pay for a ticket, and then when you're saying, well, if we miss it, then in other words, you're admitting that, well, it's a policy that we're going to create and implement when we want to. That's the same entity that has the fake sun under my head. I just want to be clear, this is somebody that's engaged in what is criminal conduct and furtherance of murder, engaged in surveillance of all of the evidence, doing so while the police are literally stalking and speaking through these third parties who are engaging in targeting an American citizen. You're doing so while you're engaging in that pattern of conduct that you know very well is being documented. This is an entity that's engaging in that while I am capturing the podcast. It's 1:06 p.m. The entity has the fake sun while it's remaining over me at this hotel room from 7 in the morning until after 5 o'clock in the evening. That's video documentation that I have, as I reminded you about the fake sun over me, where Jason Reed of the Montclair Police Department is exposed based on your understanding, as I've exposed to you, how the pattern of conduct, how the demon possessed, like Louis Mejia and Kimberly, third parties sharing in what is a systematic means of co-conspirator of murder. That's prison. While they're engaging in what is harassment on behalf of that government to obstruct justice. That is calling and coming up with anything, including harassment. Well, we need to come in, and says who? Why? And by the way, isn't it interesting? I just got service, and you're talking about we need to service the room. That's not a coincidence, in other words. But I wanted to document the fact that the entity has no policy about that, and they're not forcing themselves into the room. Now, I'm sure that there's a policy where you can come up to somebody that's trashing your room or whatnot, but this is the pattern of conduct. This is an entity that's monitoring my vagina in the room. This is the entity that's monitoring the documentation. That's why the entity is stalking, as you heard, by plane and helicopter, as I begin capturing video of this third party who was gang stalking as the housekeeper, engaging in that with the government while she's targeting with sensational activity, ongoing, amplified, booming, reaching into the depths, targeting me, in other words, which is what demons do, while they're co-conspirators of your murder with the police that are stalking, with that municipality, the city of Ontario, a whole airport that is stalking. The population has moved the crime scene, as I have moved, to Ontario Airport Inn, where you just listened to ongoing harassment. Louis Mejia, I just want to be clear, is engaging in harassment as a co-conspirator of murder with knowledge that documentation is being captured, and is utilizing harassment not only to monitor, because it's ongoing P.O.C. While this impossible light is inside of my hotel room, Louis Mejia just provided all of that evidence regarding what is psychopathic. You're gang stalking and monitoring and harassing, and all of the projections, engaged in all manner of reaching. I'm asking you a question that you don't want to answer, and now I'm being passive aggressive while I'm asking you questions that you're supposed to answer. That's why you, the supposed manager, were put on the phone and handling in a very unprofessional manner, because you don't like the questions that I'm entitled to an answer for, but you don't like the questions because it's nonsense. I'm implying the answer in my question. Where's your policy that says that I'm supposed to let you into the room? How come no one has ever referred to this before? What receipt? Where is it on the website that I can refer to this policy that doesn't exist at any other hotel either? Just want to be clear. Now, this is not the circumstance where there's because with any sort of thing, you're talking about an extreme circumstance where there's some sort of emergency, and this is not that. The emergency is what is created by the entity that's gang stalking me. Okay, but I just want to be clear, this is not that. I'm a patron. You knew at the outset that it was paid for a series of nights, and this is not the first time that I've done that, and there has never been any policy that I've ever stayed at that the entity, we have to come into your room, and you need to come into my room, and what if I have not even slept on anything other than the bed. What if I haven't taken any shower, haven't used the towels, haven't used the bathroom, haven't even been in the room, and you're forcing yourself into my room, and if I don't, then what, you're gonna force me to leave and get my money back? Like, how does this policy typically execute itself? This is an entity that's gang stalking and furtherance of murder, and that was a harassing means of activity creation, while you know I am documenting on my device, which is also under surveillance, proven by the videos that you just listened to of the Ontario police referring to tweets that I just published on the internet about Mike LORENZ, who is going to federal prison. You're going to look at when did I publish the tweet on X regarding Mike LORENZ, who shares in the criminal pattern of conduct. And this is the entity that's engaging what is stalking me by helicopter as I walk outside of that room and capture the crime scene, the supernatural. That's not the sun that's hovering, as I'm capturing at every hotel, that's hovering right over me at the hotel, where I'm also at this hotel at 7 in the morning and at 5 in the evening, and it's still over me at that same hotel, engage in a grand departure from ever being at, for example, the Ovid Family Community Library at any time of day, speaking to targeting that you identify in an environment, also by harassment, while I just so happen to be referring to damning pieces of evidence. While I walk outside of the room after documenting Mike LORENZ 54 minutes ago, that was at around, it's 1:11 p.m., so a little under an hour ago, at around 12, that would have been 12:05, 12:06, somewhere around this time, this demon is being published on my X. And I'm referring to the fact that Mike LORENZ is a demon. He is stalking in order to commit murder as that pattern of conduct that I captured on video, while this demon, these demons, Luis Mejia, who may or may not even be an actual manager, and Kimberly are engaged in monitoring me inside of a hotel room with that agency, who's engaged in surveillance on the internet, on my device, and in a hotel room. And they're engaging in what is harassment as a means to obstruct justice because of what I'm talking about. So don't get lost, because this is a combination of things of what the demons are doing as they do it and what they know as they do it. All of this is relevant to, again, the husband and wife, Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, who are still gang stalking. This is the entity's pattern of conduct while they were targeting, and I was kidnapped by the Ontario Police Department, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. This entity that's gang stalking with the people of the state, Luis Mejia and Kimberly, are demons, and they're gang stalking and harassing me while they're engaging in what are means of activity creation in a room, while they are aware of the fact that documentation and what you know about their awareness is proven through the impossible light that's on video inside of this hotel room. Their awareness is proven by the fake sun that's over me at this hotel, on this side of the hotel room. Because remember, when I was on the other side, a room like 279, the fake sun's on the opposite side of the building. Okay, the entities engaged in what is targeting me, proven through also Kimberly and Luis Mejia's, that's Ontario Airport in stalking me, and Ontario Airport in the business is a co-conspirator of my murder, is engaged in what is terrorizing me, is engaged in harassing and threatening me because I'm exposing the fact that Ontario Airport Inn is a co-conspirator of my murder. That's what you're listening to, while this demon that is, again, inferior and cannot think quick enough, and so you're resorting to what are insults, you're resorting to what is projection of your rudeness and your harassment tactics, because I'm pressing in on your excuse for calling me in the first place. Why are you calling me to force me? You should be requesting. Do I need service? No, I do not. There's nothing else to talk about. But the entity, and that's still activity creation, by the way. But this the entities that sought to do so, and doing so because I want to remind you about what I'm talking. Mike LORENZ is documented with regard to what's happening. He is going to prison, and he's going to prison for demons like such as Owens and Craig Hazelwood, 21167, who committed kidnapping, and they commit kidnapping while they're engaged in stalking. You are not engaged in any sort of conduct under the law. You're engaging in nothing other than kidnapping, in other words, when you're referring to the municipal code while you're stalking me. Because that's what the Ontario Police Department are doing. They're stalking at Ontario Airport Inn. Ontario Airport Inn is stalking as an entity that's engaged in criminal monitoring, where I'm showing you that crime scene remains over the targeted individual, and they're engaged in what is exposed witchcraft. The witchcraft practices is nothing other than terrorism as you're going to prosecute that psychopathic certifiable system where the demon-possessed gang-stalking housekeepers are engaged in sensational activity creation. While they're pushing those carts, and I'm on video and you can see it, there's no earthquake, there's no rumbling, but when the demons are monitoring what I'm doing on my device, the demons that are calling my room with regard to harassing and targeting me in another manner are doing the same thing while they're pacing under the fake sun in engineer light with the police and the airport and that population. That's the mentally ill that resort to not only eating feces, not only vagina monitoring, but harassing in the name of Ontario Airport Inn. The entity is doing so while Mike Lorenz is indeed monitored, I'm documenting the fact that this agency is monitoring me, and I'm referring to him on my X in the thread. You'll see it. It's now at, that would have been 57 minutes ago. All of my social media is evidence regarding the entity that's keeping me under surveillance and what they do as they do it, where they're doing it. They're doing it where I'm doing it, but where they're doing it in the specific environment, in other words, also with regard to what is monitoring, that is surveillance on the internet and on my devices. And there is also no coincidence that you're not doing anything other than stalking, by the way. When the fake sun is over me, the engineer light is inside of the hotel room, and it is impossible that Economy Inn has that supernatural occurrence in my hotel room, and you have what is Ramada by Wyndham has that supernatural occurrence inside of my hotel room, and you have what is Ontario Airport Inn, who is engaged in what is documented harassment. That's harassment and furtherance of murder. Louis Mejia is subject to federal prison. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminal summoning. Oh, we're going to call the police so that Craig Hazelwood can come conduct what is a kidnapping, where they do not have any authority under Section 602. It's the entity that's stalking you. They also don't have authority under the municipal code. They're stalking, they commit kidnappings, and they share in criminal summoning. That's the entity that's sharing in that, and while you're engaging in that, and that's what you're doing as an employee, that's what you're doing as a facilitating venue, that's what you're doing as a company that's engaged in gang stalking me on more than one occasion, and then you have the audacity to engage in what is monitoring, as you just listened to. That's prison. I just want to be clear on that. They're aware of everything that I'm capturing on X, capturing images of their demon-possessed gang stalking employees at the front desk, when I'm reminding you about the fact that they share an incestuous sexual violence because they're vagina monitors, and so is Jason Isaac Fields' wife, Tracy Banks. She's an incestuous pedophile. She's a sex offender, and she's obsessed with my vagina that Ontario Airport Inn is keeping under surveillance in concert with their co-defendant, Tracy Banks, as they co-conspire in my murder with the Ontario Police Department. The entity, which is Ontario Airport Inn, shares an incestuous sexual violence, vagina monitoring, that they're keeping underway inside of my hotel room, proven by the fake sun, stalking by the airport, stalking by the police, stalking by the demon-possessed gang stalking housekeepers, while impossible light and multiple shadows are above my head inside of my room, all manner of inexplicable environment, which but for the P.O.C, Jason Fields, the so-called hitman that Tracy Banks has planned to commit my murder, while the entity is stalking me and kidnapping me by the Ontario Police Department, kidnapping by that agency in concert with the people that say people just like Louis Mejia and Kimberly of Ontario Airport Inn commit criminal summoning, just like the demons at Ovid Family Community Library, who commit criminal summoning with that agency under that fake sun, in that engineer light, that sun that doesn't leave from morning until evening, that engineer light that's not even explained away by that fake sun. That population that's sharing in what is harassment as an entity, that's, by the way, certifiable conduct as a matter of tangible evidence, they're all stalking together. All they're doing is pacing. They're pacing all around me. These are the mentally ill who are triggered. And this is the conduct that Jason Fields relied on, needed to precede what was his conspiracy, his plan, his purpose upon solicitation of my murder, which is what Tracy Banks has planned, has committed, has engaged in. And Jason Fields was supposed to deliver. I just want to be clear, under the theory regarding gang stalking, the Ontario Police Department are hitmen. The people of the state, the demons at Ovid Family Community Library, Louis Mejia, and the demons that gang stalk me with the leaf blower that are monitoring, the demons that are gang stalking on the roads and the highways, that are stalking in the path while I'm inside of my hotel room at Ramada by Wyndham, right next door to the Ontario Airport Inn, where Louis Mejia and Kimberly just engaged in very foolish criminal conduct that's I'm going to prosecute. But anyway, civilly and criminally, very foolish what they've engaged in on the record. And these are the demons that are obsessive and psychotic, delusional, and obsessed. Those are very significant adjectives with regard to prosecuting the government that's acting with the population. It is relevant to impunity, it is relevant to malice, and it's relevant to an impermissible threat That is far beyond what is under the law recognized as a credible threat. No, this is an impermissible threat. It's well beyond a credible threat because it is the government, and it's the government that is threatening you through a population that is still stalking. Okay, everybody's watching. That's your stalking. Everybody knows the Ontario police don't have any credibility, that all they're doing is stalking, and now it's shown you're not secretly targeting me. And they also know that you're demons. They know you're mentally ill. They know everything about your pattern of conduct based on my evidence. And they also know, while the federal government's been maintaining its own investigation, in other words, the feds cannot get away with or lie regarding what the government, including the federal government, has been engaged in. Jason Isaac Fields, you're talking about the military. You're talking about those that are going down with him. Okay, and they were hoping, even though they don't have any hope, but they were hoping to Satan that the witchcraft was going to kick in. They're still practicing witchcraft, stalking in the helicopter, in the planes, the engineer light, the light activity, even the harassment on the phone. That's all witchcraft. It's all witchcraft. Okay, the entities engaging in, but this is the entity that's very much delusional. They are, in fact, mentally ill. The entity is targeting me inside of this hotel room. While you can listen to and you can see the video, she's pushing the carts. The entity is targeting with sensational activity creation. I documented the same pattern of conduct, for example, at Economy Inn, where they are under the fake sun that remains over my room from morning until evening. And the entity is stalking with impossible light. This is the engineer light, showing what is the purpose of that engineer light. As you recognize that pattern, it is surveillance. And surveillance is relevant to what is demonic activity. Demons who are present in that engineer light, and all they're doing is maintaining noise, referred to as audible activity. That audible activity, which is amplified in volume. It's, in other words, the demon possessed are engaged in witchcraft. It's not even necessarily noise that's actually the product of whatever you hear. So because you hear what sounds like train activity, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not there's an actual train on the tracks. It's demonic activity, and it's relevant to what is the maintenance of noise in the engineered light, the fake sun, and everybody around. And everybody around are demons. Everybody around are actually pacing while they want to look like normal human beings who are just going about their business, driving in traffic, walking across the street, walking in and out, not talking to you, not knowing you, going about their business with their kit. They're all pacing under the fake sun. They're your aerial view in your mind, an aerial picture. They're a bunch of insects. They're roaches and ants, and all they're doing is pacing all around. The fake sun is over me. The fake sun moves as I move, and that population of demons and roaches, they're pacing all around me, stalking together as an entity, an infestation that follows everywhere that I'm going. You have an endless supply of ants and roaches that are following me around while that crime scene, that engineered environment remains over me. That is the Ontario police. Mike LORENZ is documented on X. Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, gang leaders conspiring my murder, committing kidnappings, just like Craig Hazelwood and Owens committed at 3 o'clock in the morning, where they're pacing around me, molesting with impossible light as hostile demons, just like Louis Mejia and Kimberly are exhibiting now. Craig Hazelwood is bearing a gun and a badge and is engaged in what is stalking me. You're stalking me as an innkeeper. The fake sun is over me. Ontario Airport Inn is stalking. This is how this malicious system works, and this is the entity that engages in things in ways in which you're ignorant about, and that's why it's supposed to, outside of your knowledge of the P.O.C., to state something like the employee is stalking the patron. That is on its surface supposed to sound as though they're mentally ill, because it doesn't even make sense logically. That's exactly what is happening. It's witchcraft. It is witchcraft, and it's also malicious, as you're going to prosecute the demons who are in strategic positions in the government, who think that they can be in the military, have sex with your mother, pray to Satan, engage in what are gang stalking you, that is targeting you with witchcraft, while they're engaged in what is spell work, defaming your character under the law, as they conspire your murder, engage in death spells, voodoo. While they are, in other words, conspiring to murder you, while they wait for kidnappers and murderers, co-conspirators like the Ontario police, who kidnap under the municipal code that they don't have authority under, who kidnap under section 602 that they don't have authority under, when the entity that's summoning them are gang stalking, and the entity that responds to criminal summoning, the Ontario police, are kidnapping. That's the pattern of conduct. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields are conspiring murder with Mike LORENZ, the Ontario Police Department. And before, remember, Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, These are the two that have shared in what is stealing my identity, shared in what is defaming my character, while I am chained up in the basement of the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court from 7 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening, where the entity kept the fake sun over the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court. That is the 8303 Haven Avenue Courthouse, where I'm documenting in 2022, by the way, the fake sun remaining over me while I'm on Omnitrans driving right by the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, where the sun is not sitting over that courthouse or any place, not the Ovid Family Community Library, not my hotel room that I'm checking out at Ontario Airport Inn on multiple occasions. It's not remaining over an apartment complex at Woodside Senior Apartments where Tracy Banks resides. It's not remaining over my apartment complex at Alvarado Gardens at 1806 North Alvarado Street, apartment number 6 on the 3rd floor facing the hillside, and setting through my bedroom window facing Alvarado Street. It's not remaining from sunrise till sunset there. It's not remaining for the duration of, in a natural environment, that is. But that's what I've documented. While the entity kept the fake sun while I'm chained like an animal in a basement of the gang stalking courthouse, Rancho Cucamonga, and Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, the city of Ontario, that have maintained evidence of them kidnapping, as you can look up my name, Erica Lorraine Spencer, on the internet, and every one represents a kidnapping that this entity has committed while you're looking at them stalking. They are stalking and kidnapping at the same time. They're doing several nights ago while I'm walking to Stater Brothers from the library, and I'm walking through the neighborhood, and the entity was they're stalking while they're simultaneously kidnapping. And they're doing so while the entity is kidnapping with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, every judge, every DA, every PD, every third party, all they do is engage in the pattern. I've shown you what's going on. The fake sun that's over the hotel room, the fake sun goes right over the courthouse. The demons walk right in. Louis Mejia, Kimberly walk right into the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court and bear false witness. They walk right into the Superior Court and they sit in the gallery and they're monitoring with their devices. While the entity says, put your phones away, it's a disingenuous means of audible activity where they are monitoring in the court, in the engineer light, under the fake sun, as an entity, kidnapping, defaming, and conspiring murder, which, again, the entity is never giving me any court dates. I'm sitting in the basement of the courthouse while in a cold cell all day long for your 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, over 10 hours. And the entity is kidnapping San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, kidnapping with the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, kidnapping, and then publishing that on the internet so that Jason Fields can move in and commit murder. And they've already created the paper trail on the internet. Well, she's a kidnapper. She's a child molester. She's habitually harassing people, and she's mentally ill. Okay, she's got the mental illness that's on record by Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. She's got the mental illness that's on the record by San Antonio Regional Hospital, who thinks it's funny. When I'm prosecuting that hospital, they think it's funny. All right, this is the entity that's engaging in what is mental illness that's on the record by the entity that's stalking as an agency and relying on the kidnappers of the Ontario Fire Department, American Medical Response, the ones that you see stalking with light at the downtown Ontario luxury apartments. As I'm showing you just a couple days ago, those are demons, while the fake sun is covered up on a quote-unquote cloudy day. And I say quote-unquote because you see the clouds. It's the fact that it's not the natural environment. That's why it's a quote-unquote cloudy day. The entities using fire trucks and ambulances to stalk in the path with light. Those are feces eaters. Those are demons. And they're monitoring, and they share in kidnapping with the stalkers outside of this hotel room that Louis Mejia and Kimberly are targeting and harassing me while you're conspiring my murder as a business and as a third party and as an entity. Every demon working at Ontario Airport, including this low wage receiving demon that is speaking a foreign language, gang stalking me in my country and terrorizing and targeting me inside of my hotel room with the government. That is speaking to the evidence of what is establishing the necessity of martial law, but also the necessity of enforcing the deportation policy. You will be deported out of this country if you are in fact an immigrant and you are being prosecuted like the city of Ontario is. The state of California is subject to. Every immigrant in the state of California is engaging in the pattern of conduct. Every business, businesses that hire immigrants, they're engaged in the pattern of conduct. This is speaking for what is massive deportation from California. Just want to be clear. They're terrorists. Just like Ontario Airport Inn is clearly exhibiting. While they have a disdain for answering, by the way, very simple questions. I don't care that you don't like my question. I don't like that you just called and basically threatened to come into my hotel room, and I just got service. In fact, I am answering the question, and that's why you don't like it, because that's exactly what the housekeepers are doing on a daily basis. That's why you're calling me passive aggressive? No, because you're monitoring, and those are the psychopaths that are always projecting. They do the same thing with mental illness. They're projecting their mental illness, but that's no small thing for the government to do that. That's the government that murders people. The Ontario Police Department, they're murderers and kidnappers, and they are severely mentally ill. Certifiable conduct, stalking in planes and helicopters, stalking in police vehicles, stalking at 3 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning under a fake sun, doing so while you're monitoring on devices and you're acting like you're police officers, and all you're doing is stalking me. You're stalking also in this environment. Certifiable conduct. You're stalking while it's all over the internet, and you were supposed to keep it a secret. So what are you doing in front of everybody unless you're requiring, it's necessitating, it's inherent to what is a corrupt federal government that's not actually investigating, because the Ontario police are still stalking? I mean, gratuitous matter that I have here. This ongoing stalking by helicopter. There's no coincidences here, and the entity's doing so while they are very much aware of the fact that there's an ongoing investigation, and it's not just my investigation, but my investigation is the case in chief, because the government can't be trusted. I'm the only one that doesn't have a bias with regard to those who are going to prison. Jason Fields is not the only one in the military that's going to prison. He is not the only one. He's the one that's married to Tracy Banks. He's the one that's been having anal sex and gay sex rituals with the demons like those of the Ontario Police Department. He's the one that's engaged in what is feigning a marriage to me on paper while you're actually married to Tracy Banks, and you're trying to keep that a secret while you are relying on the Ontario Police to kidnap me, act like I'm having court hearings while you're kidnapping with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department so that you can conduct what are ongoing means of libeling me on paper, stating that you have any basis to represent me and my interests regarding my money and property that, by the way, this entity has never disclosed to me. I've never received not one piece of mail talking about any house, any money. I've never received one summons regarding a court hearing pertaining to property that belongs to me. I've never been subject to any interrogation for any sort of criminal act that these demons have accused me of. And gang stalking by the Ontario Police is not an investigation. It's psychological torture and harassment and stalking. That's not law enforcement. The entity can't even use the gang stalking evidence, the pattern of conduct, as evidence. Well, we were investigating. No, you were not. You were gang stalking. That's what Jason Fields is. He's not investigating. He's stalking. He's not representing my interests. He's married to Tracy Banks, who has hired him as a hitman while he is maintaining a double identity. And this is not ignorant to the court that's accepting any information, any perjurious testimony about my character, about how I'm mentally ill. It's not a coincidence that I'm being gang stalked by the police outside of a courthouse that I'm not inside of, while they're all sitting throwing lots about my money and property that the gang stalking judge is sharing in. That's an incentive to violate my due process rights while I'm not in that courtroom, because there is nothing that's going to make that legitimate. And gang stalking me to date is the suicidal conduct of the mentally ill psychopaths, who are in fact demons, who are engaged in what is not just witchcraft to steal because they're corrupt criminals. They're demons who are mentally ill. Because Fields knows he's going to prison. In fact, he also, and so does Tracy Banks, they also know, because they do practice witchcraft, and they are engaged in what is witchcraft. If you did not know, that's what tarot readings are. That's why you're getting your messages from Satan. Satan that's manipulating the spirits that you're tapping into, that you're permitting into your vessel. And I guarantee in your presence, you're nothing other than a psychopathic pacer, a vagina monitor. And you refer to that as tarot card readings, while you are getting your information from the same monitoring spirits. I'm not going to mince words with Satan. This is why you share in gossip. That's a spirit. That is not coming from the Holy Spirit, and the Lord God is not going to contradict his word. He is not giving you information through tarot cards, and you're also referring to the Holy Spirit as you're getting that information. You're getting it from the monitoring spirits, the demons that are sitting around stalking me, that practice divination, that are obsessed with me, and they're also liars. You're not even getting all of the truth. I just want to be clear in case you don't understand what you're tapping into, and you also don't understand what you're exposing yourself to. This is mental illness. That spirit that you're letting in, that you're tapping into, giving access to. Whatever you think you're praying for protection, you're praying, you are exposing yourself to that while you are walking in sin. The Bible is clear about it. And this is an entity that is engaging in divination, witchcraft, with regard to spiritually attacking me. There is a clear distinction, light and dark. Who is with God and who is against him. I want to make sure that that's true and that's clear. And not only that, it is clear in Scripture. So there's nothing to debate about. If you don't believe Scripture, you're not a believer. It is as plain as that. And the Bible says, if you love me, then you will obey me. And it is very clear what the Bible says. Very clear. You can call it what you want. Just like the entity can engage in what is defaming. You can defame me all you want, but the facts remain the facts, and you're going to prison. And there's no amount of illusions. There's no amount of stalking and harassing in the environment. It's not going to help Louis Mejia. And it's not going to help this entity as I prosecute. And it's not going to help you before the almighty, righteous, holy God. He has said what it is. And it doesn't change, regardless of how you feel about it. And it is for your own protection, because this is how Satan is stealing souls. You have people who are psychopaths. Why are they psychopaths? They're demon-possessed people who they're not reasoning, they're not logical. They are unhinged based on what is inside of them, the spirit of Satan, who does not care about them. They're going to prison. So you know what they're doing now? They're gang stalking and monitoring because they don't have anything to lose. That's very dangerous for a population to share in that. And it's requiring what is martial law, and that's not an exaggeration. The helicopter activity, the plane activity, and then all of this harassment while you're monitoring. Okay, so you're going to analyze that bigger picture. That is relevant to suicidal type conduct. The entity that harms itself, acts to its own detriment, when it alone is going to suffer a very severe consequences. You can apply that with regard to hurting other people. You can apply that with regard to harming your own business. You can apply that with regard to harming your own well-being, your future prospects, your literal life. All right, where do you think that you're going in your future, in politics or in your career or whatever field that you're in, or with custody of your kids, when this is in a courtroom, but you're not thinking about that right now because all you're thinking about is my vagina and stalking me and harassing me because you're a hostile demon, you're a demon-possessed person, the spirit of Satan compels you? That's suicidal. That's suicidal conduct. That's harmful to the public. The demon-possessed gang stalker. The entities engaged in this pattern of conduct, and I just want to be clear, this is the criminal system that is speaking to what is the hitman, Jason Isaac Fields. He is never coming into my presence. He is a sex offender. He engages in what is witchcraft to steal the consent of women and men that he has sex with. He's a rapist. This is the entity it's the same with Tracy Banks. It's the same with pedophiles. This is what they do. Tracy Banks, using witchcraft to wipe their memory so children don't remember that they've been sexually violated. And then you engage in what is psychologically harming them as though they're imagining or they don't remember, or it didn't happen, or it's their fault if it actually happened and they should be quiet. What are you talking about? That's the type of psychological torture that they do to children. Understand everything that they're teaching you, what Satan is showing you that they do, and how they are a harm to vulnerable aspects of the population, to the elderly, to children, to each other. The entities engaged in what is using witchcraft while they are engaged in criminal conduct. And that witchcraft, this is not relevant to a witch hunt. Everybody sees that fake, son. NASA, an expert, will sit on the stand and concede. No one is going, the entity is already prosecuted as a matter of science. And no demon-possessed jury pool is going to stop justice. It's not going to happen. They're going to prison, and their own illusions, which is relevant to their certifiable state, is going to serve to prosecute them. That's what stalking in a helicopter, and then also wants to double as one having authority under the municipal code. That's kidnapping. That was kidnapping while they're stalking. And I said that before. That was kidnapping under the Welfare and Institutions Code with Tracy Banks. May 29, 2025. I said that before. That was kidnapping under 602 at Starbucks while they're gang stalking. That was kidnapping. I said that before.
The entity is engaged in what is ongoing targeting and furtherance of murder. The entity that is gang stalking you, everybody that's checking in and out of a hotel room, everybody that's gang stalking you as an entity, these are all hitmen because they are representing the entity. Now, Jason Isaac Fields is literally a hitman on a specific assignment, meaning coming to where I'm at, stalking me obsessively, on paper, representing, and this is the court that shares in that. So the court's not innocent about the fact that, innocent with regard to, meaning they don't know that Jason Fields is not my husband. They know that I'm not married to Fields. The government's gang stalking. Okay, the government's engaged in surveillance. Okay, they know that I'm not married to Fields. They know, and they're also gang stalking me at the same time while the government is using Fields. In other words, it could have been Joe Schmo. Joe Schmo is nothing other than, in other words, the entity that is acting through. The government needs the people of the state, just like they need Kimberly to call the hotel room, just like they need someone to enforce and call the police. The entity is engaged in criminal summoning. They need the entity to act in conformity. So the entity knows that I'm not married to Fields. Fields is engaging in a state system, lying about being married to me. While I am in my hotel room and publishing the fact that Mike LORENZ is going to prison for being a hitman, the agency sharing in the pattern of conduct. That's not a coincidence as I walk outside and that entity, that agency is gang stalking. Gang stalking is the evidence of stalking as an entity that has conspired murder. They're stalking you because they're planning on murdering you. Stalking precedes murder. The perpetual sex offense precedes murder. All right, kidnapping as an entity that's gang stalking, that precedes murder. They're creating a paper trail. They're ruining your reputation. So when you're dead, no one's questioning what happened because you are going by what are ongoing stereotypes. Oh, well, they were mentally ill. That changes everything. Okay. The entity does the same thing with regard to murders where these demons are engaging in sacrifices, by the way. Oh, well, the murderer is mentally ill. They're doing the same deflection. The demons don't want you to see them. And when they're referring to mental illness, the entity is engaged in what is they're referring to them. They're actually telling you about themselves. They are actually mentally ill. They are mentally ill. While they are using that as an umbrella, a deflector, to change the conversation, change the narrative, change the perception. The entity is engaging in what is kidnapping by stalkers who are not engaged in law enforcement. They're engaged in criminal surveillance, and they do so as hitmen who conspire murder. Craig Hazelwood is a hitman. Owens is a hitman. You have what is Vivanco, who's a hitman. You have Jay Sandoval, she's a hitman. You have the entity, Corey Walton, the entity that engaged in kidnapping. You're talking about Jonathan Burnett, Sequoia Payton, those are hitmen. This is the same agency. Mike LORENZ is a hitman. He's a terrorist leader. You are analyzing the law, but the specific one of these gang leaders, Jason Fields, he is married to Tracy Banks. And with regard to this cult, these demons who are engaging in the system of targeting me, while they thought that they were going to steal my money and get away with stealing my money and then distribute my money to everybody that's targeting. The Ontario police are paid co-conspirators of murder. And not only is their witchcraft failing, meaning you're very mentally ill. You're very mentally ill. You're not magical. It's not witchcraft. You're mental. Okay? They're crazy. Actually crazy. While they seek to, by necessity, based on the pattern of conduct, the intent to commit murder is established by your defaming the character of the person you're stalking. That's the agency's pattern of conduct. You are committing kidnapping under the municipal code. I stated this already. Craig Hazelwood is aware that he's going to prison. That's somebody that's suicidal. The Ontario Police Department, Owens and Hazelwood, suicidal. The people of the state that are pacing in that video at 3 in the morning, this is an entity that's suicidal. Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are suicidal. They're gang stalking. This is an entity. They share in mental illness. They share in obsession. They share in delusion. Jason Fields is not going to be married to Tracy Banks. He's married. Okay, you're married to a family member of mine. You're sexually involved for a prolonged period with a family member of mine. And then you're monitoring and gang stalking, stealing from me, defaming my character, trying to kill me, and then living in my house, spending up my money while I'm sleeping outside on the sidewalk by necessity in order to protect myself and document this criminal system. And then we're going to have a conversation about it. We're going to talk about it. You have any information that I need from you? There's going to be some sort of friendly exchange. You're all of a sudden a friend. We're buddies. We're partners. No, this is an entity that is absolutely engaged in feces consumption. This is somebody who is suicidal. This is someone who is an active hitman who is still trying to commit murder, especially while the Ontario police are proving Fields is going to prison. Fields is very suicidal. Fields is married to Tracy Banks. Tracy Banks can't seem to keep her demon-possessed homosexual husband from stalking me, who she sent to kill me. This is a family member. And the entity is monitoring him inside my hotel room. The entity, and understand the pattern of conduct is speaking to how everything that I'm speaking to is connected. This isn't me just random. I'm connecting this with them and that and there. The entity is engaged in the P.O.C. So the P.O.C. is underway. And there's history, there's context here, there's depth here with regard to the investment of this criminal conduct. You are a hitman. And everyone knows that you are a hitman. In fact, the feds have been forced to prosecute because the feds were waiting for that witchcraft to kick in as well. They don't want this exposure. They don't want to get in trouble for what they aided in. And it's not a defense under the law. An American citizen that's being terrorized by the government, you think you have a defense because you didn't know? Because you didn't know, you thought you were just getting in on an orgy. You didn't know that it was like a death ritual and that you were going in on criminal conduct, that you've engaged in what is targeting an American citizen in violation of their constitutional and human rights because you thought that there was a valid warrant to put cameras in my apartment and in my hotel room. You think that you didn't know that? You think that that's a defense? Because it's not. You're going to prison. The entity is engaging in, remember, it's the entity it's not just cameras by itself, which is egregious enough. The entity is placing cameras on you, putting you on the internet, gang stalking you where you are, where you're on those cameras, using that footage to then defame you in a court, a whole court that's a part of the P.O.C. as well. And these are demons that are actually engaged in witchcraft. So they're engaged in what is spiritually attacking you while they're gang stalking you, watching it on camera. But they're also demons that are in the physical, engaged in corruption. So this is a gang stalking courthouse that's viewing footage of a woman or entertaining footage of a woman that's being surveilled criminally by predators, hitmen like Jason Fields, who is engaged in what is using the footage, which is evidence of them gang stalking LAPD, gang stalking me in my not my hotel room, but in my they have been engaged in, like for example, when I'm in Sherman Oaks at the Courtyard by Marriott, LAPD is the same agency that will be engaged in the P.O.C. But I mean to say, in my apartment in Los Angeles, Alvarado Gardens, you have the entity that's gang stalking me, keeping cameras in my apartment simultaneously, and that is the entity that's then abusing. These are all the feces eaters together, how they abuse it. Because in the natural, when you're not corrupt, nothing in that footage is exhibiting mental illness on the part of an American citizen. None of that. As I've shown you, when I'm showing you the pattern of conduct, this has nothing, none of this is any material that ever serves for mentally assessing an American citizen as mentally ill. The engineered light, the light source outside, two distinct methods of stalking proven in an environment. The fake sun that's over the roof doesn't even explain the engineered light. Nobody's imagining that. And for you to recognize, wow, okay, what's that? That's very weird. What does that have to do with assessing somebody's mental illness? It absolutely has nothing. There is no assessing any mental illness. And when the entity we're beyond that, it's the P.O.C. It is legally irrelevant regarding the mind state, the mental health, if you will, which is not at question. It's not in controversy when the government is the one that is stalking and is in fact mentally ill. The entity is mentally ill. These demons place cameras in my apartment so that Jason Fields and the rest of them can sit around masturbating and have gay sex rituals and then bring it also into the courtroom where they were engaged in what is psychologically torturing, gang stalking, putting it on camera, and then using that very footage of their criminal activity to then defame my character. That's literally what they engaged in. That's like the entity putting cameras in this hotel room, which again, MEJIA and KIMBERLY and the gang stalking housekeepers, the demons that are monitoring, all of that entity that's engaged in the P.O.C. while the fake sun is over my hotel room, that's exactly the same pattern of conduct that the entity is engaged in. They're doing so while they are, with regard to trying to defame on paper and establishing a narrative, and this is all before they murder. This is all before they murder. So the entities engaged in putting cameras in my in my apartment were Dominic Choi, Michael Moore, and the current terrorist leader. He comes in latter part of 2024, where I've already left LA. But Los Angeles is an entity. The state of California is monitoring. The city of Los Angeles County is engaged in criminal surveillance. It's already on the record. So I just want to be clear. These are demons that are stalking me, terrorizing me, targeting me inside of my apartment, at my workplace, in Los Angeles, at Alvarado Gardens, using cameras, putting them, and you do not have a defense under the law, stating, well, I didn't know that there wasn't a warrant. I, met with Fields, and we went to the court, and I didn't know that they were doing this, and I didn't know that Tracy Banks made of that, and I didn't know that they were sleeping with the court clerk, and that's why the court clerk said this, and that's why they got that, and I signed on the paper, and then I just went in, and there's no defense. It happened. An American citizen is subject to terrorism, for which there is no defense. This is speaking to what is a responsibility. This is speaking to the implosion of what is a system that requires teamwork. And you're going to be held accountable for whatever your part is. Because that target individual was nonetheless subject to terrorism under all circumstances. You're delusional. Just like the demons that are stalking outside and inside of this hotel room. To think, and in your mind, you're only, well, I didn't know, and I was lied to, and I was just going with Fields. He said he needed some assistance, so I went with Jay, and we set up the cameras, and I was the whole time, he just told me, he showed me the warrant and everything from the court, and the judge has signed up. Nobody, there's not a defense. You're going to prison. This is an entity that's conspiring murder. The consequences supersede your annoying and constitutionally irrelevant and insufficient claim that you did not know or you weren't a part of it. And it's also implausible. The entity has an elaborate system at play. They're going to the extent to keep a whole fake environment over me. The entity is on the inside of the hotel room as well. I showed you the engineer light that's on the inside. You can see that covering over the outside of the hotel, over the hallway, where they have engineer light on the floor. Impossible. It's also impossible while the sun is remaining over Alvarado Gardens in Los Angeles, by the way. But it's impossible that is sunlight that would appear underneath the outside of the hotel that is covered. There's a whole covered walkway. It's also impossible that sunlight is radiating above the blinds. It's impossible that sunlight is radiating through the side of the blinds on the wall where this front door of this hotel room, where Luis Mejia and Kimberly are calling in, engaging in activity creation via harassing me and trying to force me to let them into my room to get service that I already received for today, and that I have a right as this paid room. I don't need any service and I don't want any service. What are you talking about? All right. And then harassing me because you can't point to a policy where that is in written form. And then you're engaging in what is threatening and harassing me while you're threatening my life and conspiring my murder and keeping my evidence under surveillance, and doing so with the intent to obstruct justice, not only because you're mentally ill, and not only because you're suicidal, but because you seek to obstruct justice and you're hostile, while you're acting in the shoes of the government. That is at all times continuing that pattern of conduct for which there is no defense. You don't have a defense, and it's not sufficient under the law that an American citizen is subject to harassment by a population of people that are stalking. Stalking proven through evidence. There's no defense. I didn't know. I live at Encore apartment complex, and I've never been over to, I don't know who the target individual is. I wasn't even at home. I went to work, and my mom came over and was watching my kids, and I don't know anything about, I'm not sitting in the parking lot watching the target individual. I never even drove over there. I never even met them. I don't even know anything about an Ontario Police Department. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct which is speaking to an entity, and they do know. And you know how you're already prosecuted, and none of that matters because the pattern of conduct is already established wherever I go, including in the parking lot of Encore Apartments adjacent to this property, including to the parking lot or whatever hotel room at Ramada by Wyndham, the adjacent property. That fake sun goes, including as I walk east and west on G Street through the neighborhood. And so does that police department that's kidnapping and engaging in what is stalking, just like they are at this apartment complex. I don't have to document all the 855,000 people in downtown Ontario in order to prove that. The business itself and everybody, it's a population that's sharing in that. And that's why the fake sun's out of everywhere, and there's only one sun also. So the entity is tied to that illusion. You kept the whole fake sun over me, proving that everybody in that environment is in fact targeting. It's not proven by the fact that you don't know this and you went to work and your mama is watching your kids and you've never done this and you don't know that and you don't know nothing. It's proven because of the environment that proves that yes, you are. And you are as an entity while you're at work and when you drive back home and the kids that you're collecting government funds over are engaging in criminal conduct with you. Because they act as like double dutch. You can go to work all day long. The entity is maintaining the pattern of conduct obsessively. Parking on the property of Ovid Family Community Library when the library is closed. Those demons are maintaining light activity presence in the path, stalking by that same police department as though it's open, just like they are when it's open during the day. It's not limited to hours. It's not limited to when you're home and when you're not home and what you know and who you know. That's traditional stalking, honey. This is the entity that's targeting. The entire entity is being prosecuted. And that entity does not have a defense with regard to terrorism that is proven and that an American citizen is subject to. In fact, your association with Jason Fields, your association down to your sexual activity with Tracy Banks, while their entire lives are being exposed and subject to investigation, and subject to what are suspicious ties and associations that are on its surface and in substance questionable and probative of a pattern of conduct, the entity is engaging in that P.O.C. and you're doing so while you are literally guilty by association, and that's based on the crime. Okay, in typical crimes, guilt by association, you need more than that. And it is unconstitutional. That is not this. This is the government. And the government's targeting through, in concert and in reliance upon a population. Association with that population, association with that entity is literally guilt. Literally. This is the entity that's, and because there's no coincidences. Association with the one under the fake sun, you're just delivering the groceries to the patron at the hotel. You don't know nothing about that and you're going on to your next delivery. They're gang stalking together while that delivery is made under the fake sun. And they're doing so together while they're targeting another person. And they're mentally ill while they engage in what nobody's supposed to know is actually happening. They're all demons. So I just want to be clear, MEJIA and Kimberly, and that's not a distraction. I'm publishing on X. It's currently 1:55 p.m. The fact that Mike Lorenz is indeed going to federal prison. This is reminding you about the entity that's committing kidnapping under the municipal code. You are engaged in kidnapping, and this agency has been engaged in kidnapping for years. The entity is engaged in it while I'm reminding you about the ongoing torture and harassment, the ongoing kidnappings that Shannon Dykes, San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department have committed, including with that agency, as I'm documenting on December 19, 2020. I'm kidnapped, and the entity is keeping me at the Ontario Police Department, taking my shoes off, while they're engaged in nothing other than a ceremony or rituals. Demons that want to touch my body, demons that want to just go through the rigmarole, demons that are monitoring, including while they conduct sexual assault and battery and they call it a search. Everything that they're doing is unlawful while they're stalking. You have Craig and Owens throwing my property away while they're engaged in stalking as a corrupt police department. That's psychopathic and it's certifiable conduct. While you're not engaged in law enforcement, you're actually stalkers, and you are stalking via the municipal code. The municipal code that is not violated while you are also the cause of that economic status. And including when I'm sleeping indoors, you're still stalking. That's why the Ontario police are stalking me at this hotel room. They're doing so, don't forget, bigger picture. Husband and wife, the satanic kingdom spouses, Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, who are trying to, on paper, maintain a means of attaching themselves to me through a fake marriage, while maintaining some sort of position like you're some sort of fiduciary, you're some sort of executor of my property, of my estate, that you have any connection to me at all? Anything other than the fact that you're a vagina monitor? You're monitoring my vagina while you're married to my so-called mother? And you've been stalking me for years? Stealing from me for years, in other words? Defaming me for years, in other words? Conspiring my murder for years? And relying on the stalkers of the Ontario police. This is why Mike Lorenz is going to prison. That's not just hopeful, wishful thinking. I don't do that. That's what these demons do. They're monitoring in the spirit. They're engaged in feckless witchcraft, because they're mentally ill, and their mental illness is now manifest for the world to see. This is delusional. This is self-destructive. This is desperate. Okay? This is self-defeatist conduct. What is it exactly are you accomplishing by overtly stalking? And MEJIA, You're listening to the video, you're listening to the criminal conduct, and then you're listening to what Luis Mejia is saying to me and what Kimberly are stating regarding what is nothing other than the P.O.C, the substance of that which is supposed to be tailored to the means whereby they're stalking a hotel and innkeeping business that's engaged in the conspiracy to murder. They're terrorists. Ontario Airport Inn is a company associated with what is terrorism, vagina monitoring, murdering an American citizen that it is hostile to because I'm exposing it. They're hostile to what are American. You need to understand these businesses are in the same way, speaking to the fact that they are domestic enemies. They want to make money, but they want to keep you under surveillance and violate your rights. They want to engage in what is threatening your life if you seek to enforce your rights. That's what these businesses are telling you. That's why UPS is stalking in a commercial plane. That's why the Ontario Police Department are stalking in helicopter as I'm capturing what is all manner of the P.O.C. My shadow's above my head. That's relevant to a specific environment, an environment that's conducive to surveillance. Not coincidentally occurring, that ongoing hallmark of ongoing harassment by helicopters everywhere I'm at, that ongoing public nuisance in an environment where I have the evidence of a sun being over me, supernatural, at this same address from 7 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. Daylight savings time or not, that is the entity that's engaging in that conduct. And not only that, they act with more and more violence and aggression because of the fact that I have that evidence. That's the suicidal entity that commits murder in honor of Satan. They kill you, they murder you, and then they pace all around and engineer light. It's a ritual. They call the demons of the ambulance, the demons of the fire department, the demons of the police department. They turn on their vehicle lights and their sirens, and they pace all around. They're monitoring. It's a ritual. That's the same entity that's engaged in gang stalking. This is how they commit murder, as an entity. And in the natural, you're looking at them, oh, they're conducting an investigation. They're responding to the scene. They're engaged in what is providing emergency services as they're engaged in noble, heroic work, service. They're demons, and they're absurdly mentally ill. This is a suicidal business. I don't want this raggedy. You're handing over, and that's just the civil matter. Bodies are going in cells. You're not going to do this to American citizens and think you're just going to go on with the rest of you're Luis Mejia. That's what his name, that's what the audible activity shows. That's prison. Remember, you have the entity, hundreds of people every day harassing together. With regard to pure numerosity, that's terrorism. And they're not just harassing, they're stalking you while they're harassing. And it's also harassment that they're stalking and they sit there and look at a computer screen all day long while they're stalking you. That's psychotic. That's what they do with the open family community life. They're stalking. All they're doing is stalking. Just like the housekeeper, that's not creating any earthquake inside of my hotel room, which is not the figment of anybody's imagination. It's as real as my shadows being projected in the depths of this room while I open the door and there's no sunlight where that's like the engineer light that the demons are driving through while I'm at the bus stop under the fake sunrise. That's like when I'm standing in the shade and you see my shadow appearing in front of me while demons are acting oblivious, just walking by. They're stalking. And they're psychotic. That's harassment. While psychopaths who eat feces, they're crazy and they're delusional. While they're stalking you, that's harassment. Even while they speak in a harassing manner, that's clearly harassment. While they're stalking in planes and helicopters, doing so while you capture video after video after video, what sane person would do? That's harassment as well. The fact that they're mentally ill is harassing to the ordinary target individual. That's terrorism. A bunch of feces consumers are stalking. They need martial law. This is the entity that is demon possessed. This is the spirit of Satan that covers a population. This is an entity that engages in psychopathic pacing as they commit murders. For no reason or for money, like Jason Fields and Tracy Banks. But they don't need a reason. If you know Christ Jesus, they don't like you. And they'll target you and harass you. And if you do happen to have anything on top of that, but they'll do it for nothing. That's why you're gang stalking me while I'm sleeping outside. You already stole my car with everything that I own in it. You did that in 2019, and I still went forward with my prosecution of the government, of the courts. That's the Ontario police that are stalking in 2025. They stole my car, stole everything that I own, and Tracy Banks and Jason Fields were then engaged in what is stating that, oh, I'm impoverished and I can't take care of myself, and that's why he needs to represent me as an executor over my my property that's never been told to me. This is how Mike Lorenz, Derek Williams, the Ontario Police Department, kidnappers like Owens and Craig Hazelwood, the entity that's gang stalking with demons like Louis Mejia and Kimberly, and demons like the Ovid Family Community Library, Mickey and Alex, sharing in what is the pattern of conduct, the population acting in concert with the entity, with regard to the greater pattern of conduct to get away with via defamation, criminal defamation, which is going to be recognized under the law. This is not a defamation with regard to what is tortious conduct. This is criminal defamation with regard to a criminal pattern of conduct that precedes murder. You're defaming me because not only are you stealing you're defaming because you are intending and preceding what is murder. It's a conspiracy to commit murder by the government. That's defaming you. How's the government defaming you? While they're kidnapping you through a gang stalking police, for example, such as Ontario Police, kidnapping after kidnapping after kidnapping after kidnapping. While, again, somebody that's a licensed practitioner to practice law, engaged in property management, never been a criminal in my life, including while I'm sleeping on the bus bench, and there is no violation of municipal law. That makes no criminal. You're gang stalking me. That makes no criminal. So the entities engaged in what is stalking me, targeting me, and then engaged in what is manufacturing, engineering, what is a means of criminal defamation, so that those thieves, the satanic kingdom spells, husband and wife, okay, the demon-possessed wife can't keep her homosexual husband from stalking me because he is also mentally ill. He's obsessed with my vagina. And they all are. Understand that. So I just want to be clear. These demons who are married and they're not really in love, they're violent sex offenders, they're sex perverts, and they are actually obsessed with my genitalia together while they all feign being married. And I love you, and we're boyfriend and girlfriend, and we're kissing while we're gang stalking the target individual under the fake sun. That's that type of sickness. I've captured that before. They're both gang stalking me, whether they're sucking face, whether they're acting like they're married, whether they act like they're in love, whether, no, he's not her. Their husbands and their wives are obsessed with my vagina, and they're all demons. And Tracy Banks in particular can't keep her husband, who is a homosexual, from stalking me. Okay, and her husband is delusional and suicidal. He's going to prison. He's not coming to talk to me about anything. There's nothing to talk about, Satan. There is nothing to talk about. Everything has already been exposed. This is an entity that engages in criminally defaming you, defamation serving a criminal purpose, not merely it resulting in what is pecuniary harm, like the tortious definition. This is criminal defamation that results in pecuniary harm, but it's in furtherance of murder by an entity that's engaged in surveillance, which is inhumane and unconstitutional, i.e. gang stalking, not a conspiracy theory. Tangible evidence that the entity is providing while Louis Mejia and Kimberly and the Ontario Police and the demon that's outside in room 247 is engaged in what is targeting me while I'm referring to videos that are on YouTube. Videos that the demons are very much hostile to. Videos of the San Diego Police Department gang stalking me at Fairfield Inn and Suites under the fake sun outside of my hotel room, which I documented. While I'm reminding you about the entity that is gang stalking me, and by the way, you can look at that video. It's captured on August 20th, 2024. And look at it's a lengthy video because I'm showing you all the places where the entity is keeping the fake sun. It's screen recording, and as I'm in that and the entity is engaged in surveillance, the fake sun is over my hotel, over me through my hotel room window in San Diego, California, and the entity is also engaged in what is gang stalking me, proven through that environment, which is supernatural. You're not doing anything other than targeting me in San Diego pursuant to the pattern of conduct. San Diego County engages in what is stalking by commercial plane and helicopter in that video, the same pattern of conduct as I'm showing every third-party innkeeper that are sharing in state surveillance. That's the perpetual sex offense. You're monitoring my vagina. That's a sex offense committed by an entity that's engaged in surveillance preceding murder. And Louis Mejia and Kimberly are sharing in what is harassing me because they are exposed sex offenders, because Ontario Airport Inn is exposed as the perpetual sex offender conspiring in my murder. That's a civil and criminal prosecution where that government is providing evidence that's going to be used against you in those court cases while you are separate from the government that's being prosecuted. Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police, they're engaged in what is evidence that's going to be used against them. Ontario Airport Inn gang stalking me is putting Mike Lorenz in prison. And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Craig Hazelwood, Owens, etc. The Ontario Police Department gang stalking me like they are in the pattern of conduct by helicopter. The hallmark in the specific environment, the engineer light inside my hotel room is evidence to put people like Louis Mejia and Kimberly in prison for monitoring my vagina and then harassing me, adding on to the incalculable harms, physical, mental, psychological, emotional, while you are engaged in surveillance. They also know what Louis, Mejia, and Kimberly know and what their intent is, in other words, while the Ontario police, who are speaking through them, stalking me via them, and this business, which is a person under the law, how they're going to be prosecuted based on what they know and what they're doing with that knowledge. Aiding in the conspiracy to murder somebody and doing it with impunity. The entity is engaging in that while they are together providing evidence against each other, because it's a prosecution of the system, but it's a prosecution of every business, just like I said, every airline. My case against Amazon, my case against American Airlines, my case against UPS, my case against Delta Airlines, my case against United Airlines. This is the level of evidence that I have. It's a pattern of conduct. My evidence against Marriott Bonvoy, my evidence against Hilton, my evidence against Wyndham, my evidence against the Ontario Airport, and my evidence against Economy Inn. I could keep going. My evidence against every municipality: San Bernardino County, Fontana Lewis Library, the City of Ontario, Ovid Family Community Library. My evidence against the Rancho Cucamonga Superior Court, the San Bernardino, that's the same California Superior Court. My evidence against the Ontario Police, my evidence against the Fontana Police, my evidence against the Los Angeles Police. I could keep going and going. The state's pattern of conduct is established, and their evidence, my evidence against each type of actor within the same entity is evidence that's used against them. The police are stalking me at Ontario Airport Inn, which is not any, this is the P.O.C. So again, this is not a, well, you don't know that, no, that's already established. The police that are stalking me at Ontario Airport Inn is evidence that's going to be used in my prosecution of Ontario Airport Inn, who is sharing in a pattern of conduct where I have a body of evidence showing the pattern of conduct underway at a third-party innkeeping facility that is conspiring my murder, monitoring my vagina, unprecedented sexual violence. I will be draining your pockets in a manner that has never before been contemplated under federal law, because it is unprecedented that businesses such as innkeepers are engaging in criminal surveillance and furtherance of murder. Like the corrupt San Diego Police Department, the corrupt Ontario Police Department have exhibited, for example. The same pattern of conduct while I am showing that P.O.C. That's what's relevant behind the gang stalking housekeeper that's targeting me with sensational activity. This is the entity that targets you with illusions. Okay? Illusions that are not the product of your imagination. No, you're not imagining the illusions. The illusions are actually happening. The illusions are supposed to be happening to you while everybody else is stating that you're imagining it. That's why they're going to prison, and that's why they're going to be diagnosed with their own pattern of conduct. The entity is engaged in what is targeting with the illusion of sunlight. Well, everybody sees that illusion of sunlight. It's referred to as engineer light. It's diagnosed, certifiable conduct to engage in stalking with light. That's an example of prosecuting with their own, targeting with their own illusion. You're going to prosecute. They're engaged in witchcraft, and you're also going to prosecute for the criminalization of federal group stalking and monitoring, a malicious targeting system executed by the government that is also speaking to the fact that it is unfit to maintain the positions that they're in. They're mentally ill. They derive pleasure from psychological torture. That's what's behind targeting with illusions. So my evidence showing all of the illusions where an entity is indeed stalking, and they're stalking you with illusions. The fact that they're engaging in one is wanting to appear as though minding their business. You want to appear as though you're just engaged in housekeeping, when in fact you're engaged in stalking. I'm going to prosecute. They're targeting with illusions. That illusion is bursted into flames. The fake sun, the engineer light, stalking by the airport, stalking by the police department, stalking with sensational activity. The same pattern of conduct. I can't make that up, in other words, while San Diego police are doing it at the Fairford Inn and Suites off of Mission. I can't make that up when it's happening even next door at the Ramada by Wyndham. That's supernatural. Light is never shooting into your hotel room while they're on G Street. So what's the light activity on the ceiling inside of my hotel room? While the entity has the fake sun over me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 and 4 o'clock while I'm next door to that hotel, and it's over my head at 12:22 in the afternoon. Where's the sun going? Daylight savings time or not? Where's the sun going between these two adjacent properties, 1801 and the Ramada by Wyndham, which is right next door? Where's the sun going there? When you're targeting with illusions of the natural environment, that's certifiable conduct for a government to engage in that. That certifiable conduct, the mentally ill that are trying to criminally defame me, the mentally ill that are trying to be in positions of an executor, of a fiduciary. The mentally ill are married, going by the name of Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields. The mentally ill are co-conspiring my murder, going by the name of Mike LORENZ and the Ontario Police Department. The mentally ill are engaged in harassing me, calling my hotel room to come up with an iteration for activity creation while you're monitoring. That was conspicuous stalking that I documented by Ontario Airport Inn with the intent to obstruct justice. Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. Federal stalking, surveillance via communication devices, and the unlawful purpose, the objective behind the criminal conduct is also relevant. And you act with impunity. Impunity is relevant to how much damages. Impunity is relevant to how long you're getting locked up. Impunity is relevant to the fact that you very well are being subject to deportation. You're never coming back to the country, to the United States. You are an established enemy of this country. Just want to be clear. There's a whole bunch of issues at one time that are being handled while the entity is targeting with its illusions. This is the entity, I want to be clear, as I walk out and that video that you listen to, that's an entity that's very, very much triggered and also very much psychotic. Very much psychotic. And you are deducing that not only from the environment, but through the blatant and obvious means of targeting, which will never be evidence that would help nothing other than a hitman such as Jason Fields commit murder by defamation, because there is nothing that is relevant to mental illness of an American citizen that's subject to this pattern of conduct. That's exposing the corrupt system at work. There is nothing that is relevant in any case. It's not legally relevant. You're not assessing anybody's mental state when the government is stalking, like Jason Fields is. It's literally the admission of corruption while you break that asininity down. It's asinine. I'm stalking you, following me from place to place, and so the defendant that's stalking is then stating, oh, they're mentally ill? Wait, I'm sorry. In which trail of evidence of you stalking them from place to place bears evidence supporting that they are mentally ill? Where in that evidence are you getting that? How are you getting to that? From this to that, how are you getting there? This is an entity that's corrupt. And the demons, they engage in corruption together. The judge, the courthouse itself, the demons that are calling themselves sheriffs, and the ones that commit kidnapping off the street, stalking you day and night, the so-called police. While they target with hitmen like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, her sending her homosexual husband that's as young as her son. She likes to have sex with kids. Okay, and now Jason Fields is nothing other than an adult-sized child. Okay, and this is somebody that's engaged in what is having sex with a maternal figure, my mother figure, while you are engaged in what is feigning a marriage to me on paper, and you're actually married to Tracy, while you're both stalking me and obsessed with defaming my character so you can get away with stealing my money and my identity. And it's not a coincidence that the Ontario police are the ones that engaged in what is under the law kidnapping while you're stalking. Oh, that changes everything. You're stalking. You're a stalker. This is the breakdown of what that system is. And that's what's inspiring the suicidal conduct of Ontario Airport Inn and the employees at this venue that are engaged in harassment, because they don't like when I ask common sense questions while you're harassing me. Because the entity cannot just stand losing. Oh, you want to engage in more psycho-delusional conduct? So you call my room and welcome more embarrassment to yourself? Because I'm not only embarrassing you, I'm prosecuting you. I'm prosecuting you. This Ontario Airport Inn engaged in what the company is threatening me. The company is on paper. They're treated as persons under the law. Based on the government system, you're going to prosecute based on what they're actually doing. This is how, by the way, you're going to utilize the law and criminalize this system, which is demonic, meaning malicious. And you are able to extract justice from that. Because since companies are treated as persons under the law, that's absolutely fine and appropriate also, because that person, which is a commercial means of targeting an American citizen with the government, is also a sex offender. That person is also a terrorist. That person is also a co-conspirator of murder. While they're engaging in conduct under the guise of a business, they're engaging in that pattern of conduct while they know that they're being documented. Ontario Airport Inn is in all of that speech that I'm going to prosecute the business, and then I'm going to prosecute the demons themselves. And all of it's prosecuting the government. the umbrella under which gang stalking is occurring in the government's name, in the government's shoes. Nobody has any private speech. There's no private property. You're not engaged in anything other than what is state action. That's why the fake sun remains over me while the entity is engaged in what is following. And you can cover up the fake sun. It could be cloudy, just like you're looking at that same P.O.C. The fake sun evidence is relevant to showing you what is an intricate, elaborate system that's going on at all places and at all times, where that engineered light and that pattern of maintaining methods of light, which is showing you how to recognize illusions that are right in front of your face. That's not headlights, it's engineer light. That's not sunlight, it's engineer light. That's not even the sun. I can break down the asininity, the stupidity, the obsession, the stupidity of stalking so obviously. These are suicidal terrorists. That's a very combustible and dangerous formula for this country. Suicidal terrorists, because that's what they are. That's literally breaking down. You're caught and you just engage in all manner of sloppy, obvious, desperate, just now you're just doing it in front of it. This is basically what they're, so what, whatever, we're just going to do. That's a threat to American citizens. You need to take heed to that. They're suicidal terrorists. What you're taking out, this is what you're not going to miss. Jason Fields is not the only federal agent that's going, because that represents the government, that's going to prison. You don't have a defense. You need to understand, so I'm going to legislate for you. This is legislating and litigating. And this is literally how the law operates. This is relevant. This is not foreign to how existing law operates and the purposes of laws that are already on the books. And in the same way with regard to your assessing the crime, the threat posed to an American citizen that's being bullied and targeted by the government that has no constitutional basis whatsoever, you do not have a defense, actually, nor reasonably, when the result is terrorism to an American citizen. Remember, I'm advocating, so I'm capable of speaking. I'm capable of representing and litigating and speaking to and exposing and even doing it in a manner that is necessary in order to prosecute a government which wants you to be overwhelmed. They want you to be irrational and over emotional and hypersensitive, even though that doesn't mean that you're mentally ill, and it doesn't mean that you're weak either. It means that you're human, but you have to be able to come out of that in order to prosecute a government. Okay? But based on what is the entity that's engaging in this level of conduct against an American citizen, it's terrorism. Because it's terrorism, you don't have a defense. There is no defense. You think you're out of your mind, and we all know that you are, you're feces consumers. You're out of your mind if you think that you're going to be in a court of law and under federal law, any level of law, but federal law, that you're stating that you were ignorant about one thing or another, and that an American citizen that is dead because of terrorism, this system that you are engaging in, you're facilitating it and you play a part in it, and that your ignorance, or I didn't know that I was engaged in light activity creation, I didn't know that the airport was stalking that person, I didn't know that the police were targeting, I was just walking in my car. This is the entity that's, again, not actually ignorant. I've shown the pattern of conduct. They're not actually ignorant. But you're going to prosecute based on reasonableness. It's also unreasonable. And it's also not going to be how terrorism is prosecuted. It's world knowledge now. Now this, I'm not speaking and I'm not proving and I'm not prosecuting anything that's unknown. I'm just the first person that put it out before everyone. No one can deny it. It will never, ever be lied upon as some conspiracy theory ever again. That's been blown out of the water. So since you want to touch and harm one that the Lord God has said, do not touch and do no harm, now everybody's secrets are known. Not only that, you're engaging in that, and so now it's no longer a mystery. Everybody knows, and with that knowledge comes responsibility. So if you get caught, you don't have a defense, because there's nothing with regard to the targeted individual's position, which is always the focal point. American citizens who are murdered. And you're claiming that you were ignorantly engaging in the pattern of conduct in one way or another. It's not going to fly. It's not happening. It's also not actually happening, but it's not going to happen under the law. There's a responsibility. So you're talking about, okay, I'm not going to go to work or go to prison. Simple as that. And that's based on the existence of this system that's underway, that's serving to target. This is where, remember, this is the flip side of the malice. Nobody is ever supposed to know. I can go to work every day and stalk you and no one's ever going to know. How am I stalking you? And this is how the demons, with that haughty attitude, where they surmise that no one sees them. No one knows what's going on. Oh, not only does everyone know, not only is it known under the law, but that's going to have some hard choices that demons are going to have to make, that the entity is going to make. Hard decisions. Because in court, nobody cares. It's literally irrelevant. It's analogous to a strict liability prosecution upon the establishing the government's pattern of conduct. It's analogous to a strict liability basis. You're going to be prosecuted and you do not have a defense. And that's because American citizens succumb to death. Because it's terrorism. And because of the impunity. I've shown you they're not innocently engaging in the pattern of conduct. I've shown you they're not apologetically. They're not ceasing to engage in it either. I've shown you they engage in more, just like what I documented today. They're going to prison. They're being deported. They're losing custody of your children. They will not be in the medical field. They're murdering people while they're caretakers. They're murdering people and claiming that they are executors of their estates while they're engaging in what is murdering them, poisoning them. They're engaging in what is targeting as a whole population, sharing in the pot. This is the same entity that engages in that. You're being removed from the legal field, from the medical field. You're being removed from all the ways in which you pose a threat to the public, as people are now known as psychopaths as a population. Okay? The ongoing endless supply of roaches and ants that are stalking as an entity. They don't have any lives. They don't have any personal business. Their obsession is the entity that is engaging in the pattern of conduct. That's what the demons are doing. That's actually what's going on. Just want to make sure that that is understood. The entity is engaged in this, and the entity is targeting. So this is relevant to San Diego, California, August 20th, 2024. I'm in San Diego. I'm remaining at Fairfield Inn and Suites at 4345 Mission Bay Drive in San Diego. And in the video, it is I'll attach it to my videos because I'm showing a pattern of conduct. The entity that's stalking me at the Ontario Airport Inn by helicopter. Just adding on to the ongoing evidence. It's literally, like I said, it's going to be a cinematic prosecution in a courtroom. There will be no controversy regarding Mike Lorenz. Mike Lorenz is no hero. If the entity think, oh, we're just going to limit, maybe we'll take the sword for everybody. No, it's not happening. The city of Ontario is not the only place where the pattern of conduct is underway, so they're going to insulate it. So the Ontario International Airport, they'll just obviously stalk, and we'll take that, we'll take blame, and we'll protect everyone. Ontario Airport Inn's not going to be prosecuted because the Ontario International Airport is going to assume criminal liability, and the Ontario police are going to assume criminal liability, and the housekeepers and the patrons and the Encore apartment complex and Ramada by Wyndham adjacent, and everybody at Wendy's and In-N-Out and KFC and the Sheraton and the Chick-fil-A and the Ever Home Suites, everybody at the Ovid Family Community Library, the entire city of Ontario, they're all being sheltered while the police in the Ontario International Airport share and obviously stalking everywhere that I'm at with regard to assuming responsibility for the criminal conduct that this entity is caught in. That's not happening. That's not going to happen, and that's also impossible under criminal law. You're not assuming responsibility for anybody else's federal charges, for any other business's federal engagement in the pattern of conduct. You're not engaging in what is this is criminal activity by an entity. The entity is acting through everyone everywhere. The entity is not prepared for that prosecution. The entity has literally proven through that asinine and blatant, mentally ill, certifiable conduct that everybody is also stalking. In addition to my evidence, which established it, the entity further proves it by the entity obsessively stalking everywhere while I'm in airport, and it is, by the airport, by the police department. The entity is not engaged in, this is the entity that's delusional. You don't control anything. You're not changing anything. You're not saving anybody. You're not helping anyone. This is the entity that's incriminated by the government. You're incriminated by the environment. You're incriminated by the ongoing impossible existence that I have a pattern of behavior in a different city, by a different department, in a different region. You're incriminated by all of that. You're not assuming anything for anyone. Mike Lorenz is targeting, just like Dominic Choi, just like before him, Michael Moore, and the entity, just like Robert Luna, Shannon Dykes, the entity that's engaged in what is targeting in Orange County, in Kern County, and every other county, that's San Bernardino County, Los Angeles County, Riverside County. You're not assuming anything. Nobody forgot what Riverside is doing while I'm at work at the in Harupa Valley. The fake sun is over me at work. The entity is stalking by helicopter. Ontario police stalking me outside of this hotel room as I am walking out of the hotel room under the fake sun in the engineer light with the people of the state in a city that is very heavily documented. They're not assuming the conduct, and it's just in Ontario, California. This is the entity that's engaging. This is an entity that's delusional. They eat feces. The entities engaged in that, and your kidnapping is not assuming responsibility for what LAPD is going to be prosecuted for. So what they know, Dominic Choi and Michael Moore are engaging when I'm documenting it. When I go to San Diego, this entity is delusional. This is exactly what San Diego is doing as I documented on August 20th, 2024. The fake sun is over me. The fake sun is over me while I'm inside of a hotel room, a private space, where the sun is not going to be present, as I documented at that time, as I documented before, like what you see, for example, published on the internet 2019 through 2022, where you're going to prosecute based on the entity targeting with illusions, targeting by virtue of the evidence of illusions, illusions such as a fake sun, illusions such as engineered light, where very serious criminal conduct that precede murder committed as an entity are committed. The entities engaging in that, and I just want to be clear, this is directly relevant in informing the ongoing harassment by Ontario Airport Inn. On behalf of this hitman, Jason Fields is to date conspiring murder. He's delusional. He's engaged in ongoing witchcraft, because I'm not only prosecuting him, this is a demon. He's engaged in ongoing masturbation. He's engaged in what is ongoing failed sex magic. He's sexually obsessed with me while he's married to Tracy Banks, a family member of mine. This is an adulterous, demon-possessed psychopath who is still gang stalking me, harassing me through the Ontario Police Department. These are demons that are together monitoring me. This is their witchcraft they're sharing together. And I'm prosecuting him, and I'm prosecuting them, and I'm prosecuting them by each other's criminal conduct as well. Ontario Police kidnapping, Jason Fields criminally defaming and stealing my money and property through that criminal conduct which they sharing together, co-conspiring in my murder. Sharing in all manner of sexual activity, both camps with Tracy Banks, Jason Fields' so-called wife. This is an entity that's engaging in this pattern of conduct, and his demon-possessed wife can't seem to keep this demon away from me. This hell-bound, adulterous demon who will not be having any conversation with me. Okay, and the demons that are engaged in what are tarot card readings, you're getting your information from monitoring spirits who are lying to you. This is a demon that's engaged in what is monitoring, and that's obsession, which is a demonic spirit. He's married to someone else. This is totally ungodly, totally unscriptural, out of the pit of hell, while I'm subject to criminal conduct, which, by the way, you do more harm while you walk in darkness, calling it a tarot card reading. Tarot card readers who are engaged in this cult conduct relevant to surveillance on the internet, where the feds are watching you, where you've been stealing my content, you've been engaged in what is ongoing harassment, you've been engaged in what is a conspiracy to commit murder, you've been engaged in this ongoing P.O.C, which is the ongoing certifiable behavior. I just want you to know, it's not an illusion that no one can see. And you're going to go from maintaining fake tarot card readings, gang stalking me online, to prison. Alrighty, I just want to make sure that that's clear, but I'm going to be abundantly clear. There is nothing scriptural about maintaining tarot card readings, and you are doing harm. These are demons who are engaged in witchcraft, and they are lying to you about the information that you're getting. You are receiving in the spirit, where these demons are abusing divination. They are changing what they are they are manipulating in the spiritual realm while they're casting dark spirits. They're manipulating the so-called energies that you're receiving. They don't even tell the truth about what actually is happening. And you're reporting on it, and then you're gaining subscriptions, and you're making money off of it. And meanwhile, there's an American citizen, a targeted individual, and you're sitting up engaging in essentially voyeurism. It's disgusting. It's very sick. It's nothing that not only is it ungodly, this is exactly why. So this is a capitalistic means of what is witchcraft. It is witchcraft. It remains witchcraft. It is not of the Lord God. The Holy Spirit is not giving messages through tarot card readings. And not only that, you are getting your information from the demons that are sitting around monitoring. I just want to be clear. You're a monitoring spirit. You're a monitoring spirit. The demons that are engaged in stalking in helicopters, those are monitoring spirits. The demons that are acting like they're executors of my property, that they're stealing from me while they're gang stalking, those are monitoring spirits. The demons that are checking in and out of hotel rooms, stalking me at a library all day long, stalking me lying in wait in dark parking lots and while I'm sleeping outside at a bus stop, and monitoring and stalking in bathrooms, engaged in vagina monitoring, those are monitoring spirits, and so are you accessing what are monitoring spirits who are reporting while they're sitting around monitoring me all day long, stalking. Alrighty, it is currently, I just want to make sure I report on that, it's 2:33 p.m. This is Ontario Airport Inn that's engaged in what is ongoing sexual violence, and they share in incestuous sexual violence. Keeping my vagina under surveillance, as the Ontario Police confirmed for you if anybody was doubting that. There's no reasonable doubt. And that's why they're engaged in that pattern of conduct, the pattern of conduct that's shared by the San Diego Police Department, for example. Alright, the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct that is maintaining ongoing surveillance, as I document, and I will be referring to you videos of that same P.O.C. by third-party innkeepers. While I am subject to the pattern, you'll see the fake sun over me while I'm at Economy Inn, the fake sun over me while I'm at La Quinta Inn in Hesperia, the fake sun while I'm in my hotel rooms. Okay, the impossible light activity shooting through the hallways of these hotels while I'm in Monrovia, and the Monrovia police are stalking by helicopter. That's amplified in volume. You can see it way on the opposite side, like the opposite side of the, it's far distance away, in the distance, flying over the mountain. But yet I am, again, under the fake sun, where they're proving to be targeting, and they target with illusions. Amplified audible activity. The illusion that the train can be heard inside of Tracy Banks' apartment and inside of the depths of the Ovid Family Community Library, that it's going to compete with your voice everywhere in Ontario. That's an illusion the entity is targeting with amplified, that's noise and the light, while all they are doing, they're roaches and ants, they're pacing all around, they're stalking. And this is a ritual that they do while they're stalking before they murder you. They are demons. And this is where you're getting your information in your so-called tarot card readings. I just want to be clear. This is the entity that's engaged in what is harming American citizens while they practice witchcraft. And it is directly relevant to those that are on the internet, engaging in what are, you're sitting around essentially engaging in voyeurism in the spirit, not helping an American citizen. I find it to be particularly disgusting, and it's sick behavior. It is of the devil. It's sick behavior. Not helping, but watching. You're just like Satan, who is sitting up monitoring, stalking, before he goes in for the kill. For you to tell yourself that you're something different is for you to be delusional. This is not about giving information that is palatable, that makes you feel okay about what is wicked through and through. You're not giving compliments in tarot card readings. You're getting your information from demons who are monitoring. You are a monitoring spirit. You are, in other words, doing the handiwork of the devil. The devil is out here gang stalking and murdering people. And giving a play-by-play in your tarot card readings, this isn't, I just want to be clear, the Holy Spirit is not acting through that. And that is very clear in Scripture as well. And he is not contradicting what the Word, he's not contradicting himself. If you're not a believer, then that's your business. But I'm going to be clear on what Scripture says, where the Lord God stands on that matter. And that's the authority on which I speak. These are demons that are engaged in targeting in every arena, in every realm. And the entity that's engaged in surveillance is doing so. And this is what is putting hitmen like Jason Fields in prison. Because this demon really believed, and this is why the demons are going to be experiencing mass expiration dates. Because they conducted what is a spiritual, basically, the spiritual version, well, that's even spiritual. Jim Jones serving everybody Kool-Aid and everybody actually drinking it. And then all the people that died, this is what the demons did with regard to maintaining. It's a massive act of spiritual suicide, which is manifesting into the physical. That your sexual relationship with all these tarot card readers who then make a pact to engage in what is abuse. You're not manifesting anything. You're not making anything happen. The only thing that you can do are target demons like yourself. When he says, touch not, and do no harm, that's exactly what that means. And by the way, it's the same with everything else in Scripture. Everything else, including witchcraft. Whether you consider it witchcraft or not, whether you consider what you do good and acceptable forms of witchcraft or not, whether you are a believer or not, that's you. There are consequences for everything that we choose to do. But this is the truth, and that's not going to change based on any individual priest, no respecter of persons. The entity is targeting in every realm. These demons committed mass suicide of themselves by thinking in their minds that they can, first of all, target a child of God, and that it's going to be effective if all the tarot card readers have sex with each other and then engage in what is essentially gossip through tarot card reads, that's spell work, engaging in what is manipulating in the spirit. They're engaged in witchcraft, and then you're reporting it in your tarot card reading, which is why you have and then you're reporting on it. This is the entity. It's not, by the way, it's not the truth of the Holy Spirit when it's manipulable, when it can be manipulated. That's not the Almighty God that is speaking inerrant, all truth. That's not, I just want to be clear, it's mutually exclusive. It can be manipulated by a demon that's engaging in witchcraft, by a demon that wants to cloak themselves and veil, appear as a quote-unquote feminine instead of a man. This is witchcraft. And you are aiding in harm. If you don't understand the connection between an American citizen being gang stalked in California or in northern Florida and your witchcraft on the internet reporting on it, aiding in the entity engaging in that in the first place. And what is the bottom line? That you would be deceived, that you would be convinced that you are engaging in anything that is acceptable, that is helpful, that is good. Okay, and at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter what anybody else thinks, that you are not going to be held accountable for it before the Lord. And that also is not a contingency on based on whether you believe that or not. It is as real as the fake sun. Undeniable. Okay, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and I want to make sure that that's clear. The entity targeting me inside of this hotel room, the housekeepers outside engaging in what is psychopathic pacing, that's coupled with what is sensational activity. This demon that's pacing outside of my room, which I captured on video, and then the entity immediately starts stalking in planes and helicopters. That housekeeper is threatening my life while that happens. The entity is engaging in what is targeting me while I'm inside of my room, and I'm looking at videos to prosecute the entire U.S. government. That is also at the same time not only gang stalking me, kidnapping me, criminally defaming me, and then stealing my property as though it is also an executor of my property in any sort of position to represent me. I'm exposing the fact that that government is conspiring my murder. The government is no executor of my property. The government is no is in no position to represent my interests. The government is engaged in what is conspiring my murder while engaged in exceedingly astronomical level of malicious conduct. And this is the entity that's doing so while I'm inside of this hotel room at Ontario Airport, and that's what's relevant. So I will attach videos with regard to the pattern of conduct, and the focal point in these patterns that I'm pointing out is the entity that's targeting me as I'm showing you the third-party innkeepers, which is relevant to the P.O.C. Remember, the entity is not only targeting, they're targeting the documentation because I am the one that's prosecuting this entity. So these demons engaged in targeting the person that's prosecuting, which is a whole other level to what is prosecuting terrorists. Now, the terrorist, the co-conspirator of murder, is now harassing and terrorizing and sexually violating you while they keep your evidence, capturing them, documenting them, proving it under surveillance. Oh, that's a maniacal, a particularly very threatening. In fact, it's an impermissible threat posed by that government that is still nonetheless targeting you and furtherance of murdering you. Well, you're just going to commit murder on the Channel 13 news, and nobody's going to do anything about it. That's exactly what you're communicating when the Ontario Police and MEJIA and Kimberley and the demons gang stalking as housekeepers, and the demons are monitoring still in the city of Ontario and committing kidnapping and referring to the municipal code while you're kidnapping the whole time. And you have psychos, feces consumers, married demons like Jason Fields. Yeah, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and that's all simultaneously happening. to American citizens that don't have the evidence. It's so intricate even in its description. It's designed at the outset to result in Jason Isaac Fields being able to stalk me at my hotel room and commit murder. And then they point to the criminal defamation committed by the Ontario Police Department, defaming my character for a criminal purpose, such as Jason Isaac Fields committing murder at the wishes of his wife, Tracy Banks. In order to, what is then state, well, she killed herself. It was suicide. It was a drug overdose. She's a drug addict. Or somebody harmed her because she was trying to molest their kids again. Yeah. And the Ontario police are going to investigate. That's the entity that's engaging in what is a conspiracy to commit murder. And that's what's relevant to the activity creation, monitoring me, by MEJIA and Kimberly, by the way. This is the pattern of conduct. This is the entity that's harassing while you're targeting. That sort of, that is the impermissible threat posed by a business that's going to be prosecuted for conspiring murder, a business that's engaged in the perpetual sex offense, a business that's hostile as a domestic enemy as a matter of evidence, engaging in that because they're being documented. As they are engaged in federal stalking under Title 18. Alrighty, it is, like I stated, it's 2:43 p.m. And it is December 27, 2025. And this is relevant to the evidence that I am capturing on video that you listen to. And it is evidence that's relevant to real-time surveillance that's underway inside of this room on an ongoing basis. So the entity is engaged in what is ongoing amplification of audible noise in the engineered light under the fake sun, while the government is engaged in what is surveillance of a woman in a hotel room. And murderers like Jason Fields and Tracy Banks are actively plotting on what is stealing before they commit that murder. Okay? This is the entity that's going to be federally prosecuted, and there's no defense. You don't have a defense, and ignorance is insufficient. Ignorance while you're engaging in what is terrorism with the government is equal to the same penalty. You're going to prison. All right? This is the P.O.C. It is 2:44 p.m.
All right, it is currently 4:10 p.m. And just to give an example, this is relevant documentation regarding MEJIA and Kimberly, the third party that's gang stalking in the adjacent hotel room 245 under the fake sun at 12:20 p.m. that I'm documenting at 1801 East G Street, where the entity is maintaining the pattern of conduct. The pattern of conduct which is occurring in the specific environment, which I'm going to show you. This is engineer light that's shooting through the peephole. This is the pattern of conduct regarding what is engineer light, not sunlight. This is the entity that's maintaining a fake sun in a distinctly different location. For example, I have Ontario Town Square, which is one that I'm just drawing off. I'll connect it to this video to show you the entity that is not only stalking with light, just like you saw inside of the room, multiple shadows, while the demon is giving me towels and giving me toilet paper, stalking in the path, creating activity like they are now while I'm on my device, uploading the entity that's gang stalking me. This is concentrated light. It's impossible light while it's a covered structure, just so you can see outside. This is the entity that's engaging what is maintaining light activity, while this is the engineer light, and it's also speaking to what is the fake sun that's over the property for the duration of time. Documenting 7 in the morning, like I already referred to in the previous video, the entity stalking by the Ontario International Airport, psychopathic pacing, by the Ontario Police Department, psychopathic pacing, real-time harassment tactics while the evidence is captured on my device, which is under surveillance in concert by Ontario Airport and MEJIA and Kimberly, the gang stalking third party, the groundskeeper. In the previous videos, what I'm referring to, the gang stalking housekeepers are sharing in what is the psychopathic pacing in the engineered environment where the entity is engaged in criminal surveillance under the fake sun that is over the Ontario Town Square, and they are not coincidentally but pursuant to the pattern of conduct stalking. 6YCW087, that's the entity that's engaged in what it's as a population under an enduring fake sun. Also, where you're recognizing the mental illness, you're going to look, this is engineer light that's on the bushes, parking, stalking in the path. They're parked in the, this is mental illness, this is public corruption, this is the criminal conduct of the Ontario police. The ones that are also stalking in the environment, psychopaths, while they are in this environment, which is conducive to monitoring, and this is psychopathic pacing under the fake sun that was here at 12:22. Here it is still here at 4:12 p.m. It's over the Ontario Town Square where you're looking at demons that are gang stalking. Okay, the entity's engaging that as a population. Coming out of the hotel room, this is another creature. It's called crossing path. Walking underneath is crossing path. Walking in the engineer light, keeping your back to me, calling me on the phone inside of the room like Louis Mejia and Kimberly are, seeking to engage in a means of harassment while I am documenting what they are keeping under surveillance. Ontario Airport and a third-party innkeeper under the fake sun that's on the Ontario Town Square, 224 North Euclid Avenue at the same time. It's impossible. P.O.C.
Okay, it's currently 4:29 p.m. This is just a couple of notes. The video documentation that you just listened to, it's captured at 4:10 p.m. It is a reference to where I do same time of day analysis. It's also duration of time at one location, where evidence of the sun not moving from while I remain at one location, one address, one apartment complex, one hotel room at a specific address facing a specific direction. I mean, it's very detailed and specific when you get down to the ways in which you're analyzing the environment where the entity is stalking. And then you're getting to that which you've listened to me analyze earlier. The entity is, they're all stalking on behalf of someone that is very much severely mentally ill. The stalking with the fake sun is a direct indicator regarding mental illness of the entity that's gang stalking. The entity stalking with fake sun, for example, that's shooting through the peephole horizontally. After the sun is over me at this venue at 7 in the morning. It's over me at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's over me while I am at an entirely different location, such as the Ontario Town Square, which I'm juxtaposing that video that you just listened to. That which is over the Ontario Town Square, and that same Ontario Town Square is where that same agency is gang stalking, targeting, engaging in that hallmark, that spectacular means of harassment in that environment where a population is engaged in targeting. This is a direct indicator to mental illness. This is mental illness that is exposed, that is shared by, which is informative regarding not only criminal activity that is psychopathic, that is malicious, it's intentional, it's deliberate, it's obsessive, it is deranged. It's also that which Jason Isaac Fields and, again, his wife, Tracy Banks, they are not only criminals, they are actively engaged in targeting, just like the Ontario police are actively stalking. In this video, you hear me reciting the license plate. You hear me reciting the entity that you can see it as well, but on the podcast you're listening, you can hear me reciting. A third party comes out of their hotel room while I'm facing west, and the fake sun is over me at the same hotel room where it was at 12:20 p.m. where that Ontario Police Department is stalking as an agency engaged in by analyzing the pattern of conduct. This is an agency that's sharing in a statewide pattern of conduct. So it's not just the entity that's engaged in what is, man, everywhere you're going, you're capturing video of helicopter. That's a pattern of conduct which is even tied to what science dictates is impossible to be the case, that the sun is over the Ontario Town Square, even in the same city. While it is both remaining for the duration of the day over that town square as a matter of evidence, remaining for the duration of the day over this hotel, even while it's at an over 279 over the park, it's over a different portion of the building, but nonetheless, it's over the address. You can even scrutinize the position that I'm at, the ecological address, the latitude and longitude, because it's not the same at room 279 while I'm at the current room that I'm at now. The entity is engaging, and before that, also, like 274, same building, negligible difference. Actually, I'm getting the fake sun as I'm in that parking lot at essentially the same location, but this is the level of detail that you have regarding the entity stalked with the fake sun, and that is the entity that is stalking as a population. Whatever side of the building I'm on, that's where the fake sun goes, that's where the people are pacing all around. So in the video where I'm reciting this third party that walks out of the hotel room, engineer light is all over. The fake sun is still over the same building where the entity is stalking by plane and helicopter, and they're engaged in psychopathic behavior. They are actually demons who are pacing. They are stalkers who are third parties who are sharing and stalking me together. Coming out of the vehicle in alignment under the fake sun, engaging in the same conduct that the entity was doing by helicopter. Stalking by flying over me, and the Ontario police are in that video. They're going back and forth. They fly over, then they fly back, and they're pacing. The entity is doing so on what is my the north side of my person, while the Ontario International Airport are on the south side of my person. They're pacing. While they do that, the Ontario International Airport flies west. They engage in a cartwheel, and remember, they're doing so at an address that is substantially north from the Ontario Town Square, the Ovid Family Community Library, the Arco at 434 North Euclid Avenue, the bus stop at 537 North Euclid Avenue, the Stater Brothers at 646 West Holt Boulevard, where they're hovering over that parking lot, and they're doing so plane after plane after plane, and then they're engaging in the delusional and short-sighted and forgetful behavior of mentally ill people who are not only stalking in planes, they're stalking in planes while they're stalking with light and under things like a fake sun over one person that they are stalking in concert with the rest of the demons. They're all engaging in stalking together. They're doing so while they are not under any circumstances being confused with maintaining aerial surveillance. You're not taking off at the 1801 North Euclid, flying over G Street, in other words, and then at your much west of this location, you are, that will be southwest, to be over, not coincidentally, while the fake sun is over me, the entity is stalking by planes, hovering over the parking lot of the Stater Brothers parking lot, where the entity has the fake sun from 7 till 10 in the morning, remaining over me at 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm at the Coin Laundry, the fake sun's over a grand departure from all of that while it's remaining over the Ontario Airport Inn, a hotel that I have been at before. I've been at the adjacent property, the Ramada by Wyndham. I've been in an entirely different region, such as in Los Angeles, where that evidence, everything that I'm documenting before in 2020, all of this remains relevant. Same time of year analysis regarding the entity that is targeting with illusions. The entity is engaged in pacing as I open up my hotel room door to capture the fake sun in order to prosecute regarding the malice behind the harassment that Ontario Airport Inn. It's gang stalking groundskeeper, gang stalking housekeeper, gang stalking front desk clerk who's calling me under the name of quote-unquote Kimberly and stating that the manager is quote-unquote MEJIA, who are engaged in what is monitoring by calling the room while I'm in the midst of documentation that is monitoring with the intent to commit murder while the evidence is being captured, as though, for example, you're going to commit murder and the federal government is doing nothing about it. Now, the documentation is showing that the federal government is absolutely doing nothing about it, but that's going to be dealt with in the prosecution. This is relevant to mental illness. Mental illness that Jason Isaac Fields and his wife Tracy Banks both suffer. This is an entity that is mentally ill while they're pacing around me under the fake sun, while they're stalking somebody in a hotel room, while they're stalking with light, while they're stalking as a population. All of it is certifiable. Yes. What you need to understand that this is going directly to the gang leader. This is a demon that's engaged in what is ongoing, ceaseless and obsessive and demented, deranged practices which the mentally ill call witchcraft. It is demonic, but this is an entity that is being identified as certifiable. This is deranged behavior that is not secretly occurring, that is serving for its own demise, which will occur in a courtroom, and the entity is still engaging in it with that level of impunity. The entity is engaging in criminal activity while the African-American female and the male she's with are at the vehicle. They're engaged in what is pacing. They're stalking in the path. While they're doing so, the criminalization of that conduct Ontario Airport Inn is engaged in criminal activity. Encore, the apartment complex, they're all stalkers in that apartment complex. The same airport and police department are stalking while the people of the state are exiting a vehicle in alignment to my hotel room. Coincidentally, as I open the door under a fake sun and all means of engineer light is surrounding, they're monitoring, they're gang stalking while they are together conspiring murder. They are acting with an entity that is acting with a gang leader such as Jason Fields, a delusional psychopath, relying on harassment by MEJIA and Kimberly, who want to break into my hotel room apparently and force me to accept services that I don't need today. All right, the entity's engaging in the pattern of conduct while they are monitoring. So you're doing so while you are actively acting in a concerted manner while you have already engaged in what is lying about being in any sort of position to represent my interests. You are not an executor. You are a domestic terrorist. You're a stalker. You are also conflicted while you're married to Tracy Banks.
while you've lied about any nature of a relationship with me, which is also not going to be engineered by the government stalking, which is also a relevant and established fact. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it's directly indicative of the mental illness which poses a threat by the government, as Jason Fields is still conspiring my murder, and the entity is stalking me at the Ontario Airport Inn. The entity engaging in that, Jason Fields being directly engaged in that and benefiting from it, is the maintenance of the stalking by the Ontario Police Department, by the Ontario International Airport, by the people of the state who are the same state. It is state action occurring in the specific environment. It is a facilitating venue in the specific environment. It is the ongoing pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder. Criminal surveillance is underway in the specific environment, and the state is engaging in that. The state is acting with those that are seeking to directly benefit from my murder, committed as an entity that is gang stalking. That's Jason Fields, whose mental illness is fully established by all evidence, including every syllable coming out of the mouth of the hostile vagina monitors Louis Mejia and Kimberly, the gang stalking housekeeper in room 245 at 12:20 p.m., the gang stalking groundskeeper on video gang stalking me at 12:20 p.m. on video. While the entity is engaging in that, they're doing so in furtherance of stealing money that this government, this population has engaged in with the intent to profit from my murder. In order to get paid. They're expecting to be compensated for gang stalking. They're expecting to benefit in a monetary manner, and have already benefited and are still gang stalking. This is relevant to the mental illness factor. You are doing it before the world. They're engaging in what is stalking someone that is putting every moment of it on the internet. Now, regardless if you have sickos on, for example, YouTube, who are engaging in what are creating content and profiting off of the suffering of another person, while they are also sharing in that criminal pattern of conduct and the suffering of another person, which is a moral issue, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so in furtherance of that same criminal objective which serves criminal defamation that Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, husband and wife, engaged in criminal defamation. The criminal activity of the City of Ontario, the State of California, is the material that Jason Fields has relied upon, while both conspiring my murder and targeting me and my reputation in gang stalking courtrooms where this entity that is both gang stalking me has stolen my identity and stolen my money and property. And then when engaging in that, kidnapping me under the municipal code as a basis to engage in what is ongoing criminal defamation that they maintain under my name on the venue of the internet, where surveillance is also underway. In fact, it is relevant to the pattern of conduct to commit murder, which is exactly what Jason Isaac Fields has also planned to do. You are still engaging in that while that plot has been foiled. It is published in real time on the internet, and that's also not going to be disregarded. It will with regard to a corrupt federal government, and that's relevant to the Ontario Police gang stalking me day and night with impunity. During the course of a supposed, alleged, purported investigation, that's directly relevant to not only federal prison for federal agents, federal prison for the entities such as Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police Department, and federal prison for a husband and wife, Jason Fields and Tracy Banks, and everyone else such as those at Ontario Airport in harassing me in furtherance of murder. All right, the entities engaging in everything within the pattern of conduct. Monitoring is occurring in furtherance of murder. Jason Isaac Fields is engaged in targeting me via this system of gang stalking with his wife, 60-plus-year-old Tracy Banks, who thinks that she can send her homosexual husband, who is obsessed with my vagina and is also obsessed with my money, my property, my abilities, and is both also at the same time defaming me in order to get away with what he's already committed and to get away with what is justice, not serving the consequences for it, which you're delusional. You are already subject to the consequences, and it includes exposure. Exposure as a demon, exposure as a sex offender, and exposure as a terrorist who is engaged in what is gang stalking, which is domestic terrorism within the unabated program of psychological torture. It is not merely bad customer service for Ontario Airport Inn to engage in that documented iteration of the P.O.C. today. It is audible activity in the engineer light, and the fake sun is still over me at 16:10 p.m. while psychopaths are pacing in and out of their hotel rooms and pacing in the parking lot while they're engaging in massive surveillance in the city of Ontario at an address that is distinct from, at the same time, however, at the Ontario Town Square, where also the sun would not be, as I'm referring to that evidence, as I'm relating it to the video you just listened to, because the evidence shows that the fake sun is over me at the Ontario Town Square as a matter of evidence at sunrise, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Not moving. It's the same P.O.C. That's mental illness while you're stalking in the path, lying in wait. Oh, she's coming to her. This is the entity's purpose. They're ants and cockroaches pacing. You're pacing while you walk from your car to be in a position to cross path, walk under me. That's what the groundskeeper's doing on video this afternoon with the leaf blower, and the fake sun's in the same position 4 hours later. Not simultaneously over the Ontario Town Square. The sun is not rising and setting in the city of Ontario. The sun is not rising and setting over any location and then also setting anywhere near you in Montana. This is not the sun. And this is the identification of the crime scene. This is the exposure of the mentally ill. This is how a government is engaging in what is surveillance and murdering people through an organized system of targeting. This is exposing the mental illness of this hitman, this so-called hitman, and his sex partner / grandma, Tracy Banks, who cannot keep a younger demon-possessed sex offender. She is sending him to commit murder, and I'm prosecuting both of them for it, and they're both mentally ill. And she cannot keep her husband from stalking me. It's not just because of murder, it's because he's a mentally ill psychopath. He's a demon. This is an entity that's engaged in that. I want to be clear. This is more than just the entity that's gang stalking. This is the entity that has engaged in criminally defaming me. This is the same body of evidence that's showing, first of all, not only am I not mentally ill, nor have I ever been, nor is the P.O.C, the evidence of the P.O.C, evidence of any American citizen being mentally ill. This is exposing the entities such as Jason Fields as one who is mentally ill and a threat to the public, not just himself. It is the direct opposite. And mine is supported by evidence. Facts and circumstances, direct and circumstantial, meaning what must be wrong with someone that would even engage in that, conjure that up. Where do you think of that in the first place? Something is absurdly wrong here. In addition to the direct evidence of engaging in what is targeting someone, making up information about them, manufacturing details about them, while you are in every regard, not only making it up, but maliciously doing so for your own selfish purposes, and going to the far-reaching, elaborate, extreme means that the entity that is gang stalking does, that is psychopathic, antisocial, that is very problematic with regard to an American society that has a right to be free from that level of a threat. And while they're operating as a population of sex offenders filled with Jason Isaac Fields, who will marry your mom, have sex with your mother, practice witchcraft, and curse your name, that is defaming you in a courtroom to steal from you, while they are the ones lurking in the middle of the night waiting to take your life, and then blame you for it, and they fall back on the defamation that has been generously created by the gang stalking police department in that city. You're going to prison for that, and you are also going to be subject to being placed in the padded rooms where people indeed consume their feces. Mental illness does apply, but mental illness directly applies to the entity that is gang stalking. That is Tracy Banks and her hitman husband, Jason Isaac Fields, who is the same age as her son, who is also engaged in this pattern of conduct. They're all three going to prison. And the entity is gang stalking as clearly as you can hear me narrating in the video that I just captured. The entity is gang stalking while they're walking out of the hotel room that's crossing path. He's walking in the engineer light. He's doing so on the second floor, doing so as the demons walk from the vehicle underneath to access another room. They're crossing path. And the demon that walks out of the hotel room, this is ongoing back and forth conduct in the engineer light. And your eye opener is that the fake sun is over the same hotel room, the same person 4 hours later. And I'm also giving you further evidence. The entity has the fake sun in a different location at the same time, where the entity is engaged in the pattern of conduct of maintaining what is corrupt business practices, gang stalking businesses just like the Ontario Airport Inn. Alrighty, this is the P.O.C. The entities engaged in what is ongoing witchcraft. The demons are not only engaged in monitoring. I'm going to expose this because I will be prosecuting. Your witchcraft is going to be used to prosecute you and also diagnose you. Everyone is aware that not only am I prosecuting regarding that which people thought, the government thought, and you thought incorrectly, that it's impossible to prove gang stalking. Not only that, it's not impossible to prove that you're mentally ill while you practice witchcraft, which is also proven through your criminal pattern of conduct, and you will be subject to what is treated as the mentally ill person, diagnosed as the mentally ill entity that you are while you're engaged in it. And this is as a matter of record. The demon-possessed Jason Isaac Fields and his demonic wife are engaged in ongoing witchcraft, just as are the Ontario police. These are demons that are pacing all around, lying in wait, doing so as I check into a hotel, as I check out of a hotel, as the fake sun then departs from being anywhere over 1801 East G Street, as it goes right back to the Ovid Family Community Library, right back to the bus stop where I'm sleeping at, or wherever it is that I am, and it's rising over me in the morning, like I'm showing you from place to place to place. That's where Craig Hazelwood is engaging in kidnapping. Owens are engaged in kidnapping, and that they're also at the same time stalking me when I'm checked into a hotel room. You are not engaging in anything other than kidnapping, as you refer to law that not only are you lacking in any jurisdiction by virtue of gang stalking, you don't even have any authority under it, and it is not reserved for the entity's criminal conduct. That's not what laws are created for while you engage in surveillance. The absurdity and the audacity. The entities engaged in stalking me also by helicopter relevant. Like I stated earlier, this is all relevant to analysis. Mike LORENZ is indeed going to prison. He's going to prison because his homosexual co-defendant, who was married to Tracy Banks, Jason Fields, this demon is engaged in what is stealing from me my money and property, relying on the criminal defamation, every kidnapping committed by the Ontario police. They're both going to prison. Jason Fields and Mike LORENZ. And they're going to federal prison in concert with what are Tracy Banks off the top. In other words, those three demons are going to prison. It includes Eric Spencer, it includes Tommy Allen Banks. These are people that have engaged in criminally defaming me, sitting in gang stalking courtrooms, defaming my character, while you have these puppets of Satan out here, psychos, ants, and cockroaches pacing all around, maintaining surveillance on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis. Just like what MEJIA and KIMBERLY are engaging in. And just like I'm showing you is the pattern of conduct from place to place. These demons are engaged in practicing witchcraft. They're monitoring in the spirit. They're engaged in ongoing psychological torture, engaging what is the communication of a threat both impliedly and expressly. Jason Isaac Fields is threatening my life while I'm being monitored in the hotel room, this ongoing witchcraft, while then the Ontario police are stalking me by helicopter. They're acting together. They're engaging in targeting me, psychologically torturing me in concert with one another. Aside from the fact that Jason Isaac Fields is not physically in the video. Understand that. Understand that. Gang stalking is relevant to the psychological component and the physical presence in the path, physically stalking. They're engaging in it together. Jason Fields and Mike LORENZ is going to prison. They're both gang leaders. They both share in the pattern of conduct in doing so with regard to stealing money and property from me, and they're still doing it. Jason Fields is still conspiring murder. He is engaged in ongoing threats to my life, and doing so impliedly and expressly with the entity, the population of demons who are not getting $1 of my money. There will not even be a conversation to tell you, no, I'm not giving you any of my money. There will not be any exchange. There will not be any negotiation with the entity that has been obsessively seeking to commit murder and stalk me, as though you're going to do so, and then we're going to negotiate in court about how you can avoid prison and just write me a check. You're going to prison, and you're also not going to get any of my money. You're not getting $1. You're not turning over any evidence that's going to remove you from federal court. From federal prison. That as well too, federal court. The entity would like to avoid federal court. You're not avoiding federal court. You're not avoiding federal prison. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and not only will there not be any conversation, Jason Fields has exposed himself as one that is intent and obsessed with completing a murder contract that is not going to happen. This is somebody that has killed himself. He has decreed death over himself. And your continuation in what is failed witchcraft is speaking to your mental illness. In other words, you lose and you just refuse to admit that you lost, but everyone has witnessed the fact that you lost, and you lost miserably. And that which you never should have bargained in the first place. This is what they do to American citizens that are not covered, that don't have any protection, that don't have any evidence, in other words, that don't have anyone to report this to, and the Ontario police successfully kidnap them. Jason Isaac Fields successfully defames them in a courtroom. Jason Isaac Fields lies in wait while demons are pacing around and monitoring on an ongoing basis until Jason Isaac Fields is led into their room by MEJIA or Kimberly or the gang stalking housekeepers so that Jason Isaac Fields can get away with taking their life. And then they're found in their hotel room inexplicably gone. And the Ontario police are the ones that are summoned to investigate what happened, to provide an autopsy report while Tracy Banks is the one that's fake crying. And the entities engaged in what is reporting on the news that there has been a suicide. And they've been gang stalking the whole time. He's going to prison. There will be no negotiation. There will be no conversation. And in fact, he's not only going to prison, he's going to prison for ceaselessly threatening my life. This is a psychopath whose mental illness is a matter of documentation. And he is obsessively targeting my life while he is gang stalking through the entity that is now providing evidence against, and how long he's going to prison, he's not getting out. I just want to be clear on that because that's exactly what the evidence is inevitably leading to. This is all evidence that is logically and legally analyzed just like you would any stalker. The stalker happens to be the government. The government used Jason Isaac Fields. This impotent, inferior ignoramus thinks that or thought that, and he's delusional, still engaging in conduct as though you actually think that, but you shouldn't, which is getting to your mental illness because nothing about the circumstances is demonstrating that this is going to end well for you. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so with regard to impunity that the federal government is going to be prosecuted for. I'm speaking to what American citizens die. They die for much less. And because the entity is engaged in this pattern of conduct, they're doing so with the level of impunity that is unlawful for the government to communicate to any American citizen by virtue of being subject to it on another day. The federal government has not stopped the Ontario police from climbing into a helicopter to communicate that unlawful threat. They have not stopped them from committing kidnapping. Owens was just pacing around like a psychopath like they are now under the fake sun. That's what he was doing with the people of the state at 3 in the morning. Stalking, wearing a police uniform and talking about the municipal code. And I guarantee you he don't know how to spell municipal code. It was an excuse to stalk me conspicuously, to put your hands on me, to go through my property, to throw my property away, to harass me while I'm documenting you. You're a stalker. You're a co-conspirator of murder, to be specific. And you're engaged in a pattern of conduct as an agency that is stalking me on video at this hotel where a fake son is sitting as a matter of evidence for over 4 hours on one side of an apartment building. And that's just today. As I reviewed the evidence from 12:20 a.m. to 4:10 p.m., I captured that video. That's an agency engaged in a pattern of conduct. That's kidnapping that's occurring on video on December 19, 2025. That is kidnapping committed by Jason Isaac Fields, one who is not coincidentally, but in conformity to a government's pattern of conduct that conspires murder of people that have a lot of money and property and think that the government can bully someone, get rid of them, lie as to what happened to them, and then run off with their money. That's what Jason Isaac Fields thought that he was going to get away with, and not only that, is continuously in doing so while it's being exposed in real time. So he's just going to abscond with my money and property and still get away in the midnight hour when the federal court hearing is settled, or I'm getting my what it is that I'm entitled to under the law, and he's just going to gang stalk and he's going to swoop through and it's just going to happen, and the Ontario police are just going to be pacing over me in helicopter and nothing's going to stop. They're psychos. They're psychos. For the government to permit it to happen is a crime. That's my point. I'm prosecuting based on the pattern of conduct, and I'm prosecuting off of principle. This is not idealism. This is what are unacceptable conduct by the government, and I'm going to prosecute based on what the government is permitting to occur. And you know very well what's going on. You are well beyond an investigation. The Ontario police, this is surveillance, so everyone knows what is going on. And including myself, the one that is forcing you to do that which you were never poised to do in the first place. This is an entity that's engaged in what is an unlawful threat. The fact that an American citizen is subject to that threat, I'm going to prosecute the government for it. That in and of itself is a crime. psychological in nature. It's unconstitutional and inhumane. The entities engaged in this while sex offenders and sex addicts and demons, psychopaths like Jason Fields, send a population of roaches like those pacing around at the Ontario Airport Inn, keeping my vagina under surveillance while he is lying about being an executor of any estate. This is some ghetto banshee from downtown San Bernardino, a lowlife, a thief, a common thug, a fraud, a nymphomaniac, while he's engaged in what is having sex with my mother and trying to defraud me while I'm being gang stalked at the same time. There are no coincidences there. That's catching the government engaging in what is an elaborate criminal pattern of conduct, which absolutely you need evidence to prove that. And that's also why he's going to prison. Because the crime is so far-fetched. No one is supposed to believe you. But we're well beyond that. He's going to prison. This is evidence regarding his mental illness. It is a shared P.O.C. So this is what everyone needs to be mindful of and be paying attention to. The entity stalking me by helicopter, that's directly getting to the same demonic and mentally depraved conduct that Jason Isaac Fields shares in and suffers from. He is in no position to be an executor of any estate. He's unwell. He's unfit. And I just want to be clear, his hands are entirely unclean. And that he is not the only one. It is currently it's 5 p.m. on the dot. Ontario Airport engaged in federal stalking on the venue of the internet. Extraordinary delay in the ability to upload my evidence. Engaging in what is also, that's conducted with the intent to obstruct justice while you're trying to murder me. The entity is engaged in what is doing so while Jason Isaac Fields is still stalking, threatening, engaging in psychological torture. This failed practice of witchcraft is criminal activity. It's not just the evidence of their mental illness. It's not just a bunch of crazy witches that haven't realized, okay, the spell's not working. What do we do next? They're mentally ill and they keep doing the same thing because they're doing exactly what I told you that they're doing. They're monitoring. Light activity, relevant positioning, audible activity. And it's the criminalization of what is criminal surveillance that is not a secret. Neither is their mental illness. And people engage in what is stealing from me, Tracy Banks, stealing my identity, both obsessively monitoring me and monitoring my vagina. She's an incestuous pedophile who is sexually obsessed with me, having sex even with her homosexual husband. The both of them together. It cannot, under any circumstances, with regard to the intelligence quotient. I mean, this is absurd with regard to what is out here stalking me. It's laughable. This is an entity that's engaging in that. And why do you have dummies that are gang stalking? Because the government's corrupt. That's why. All right. Any buffoon is able to engage in stalking you when all they're doing is engage in criminal summoning. That's exactly why you're going to prison as well. That's the formula for prison. It's terrorism. That's why dummies feel confident. That's why whores, Jezebel spirits, feel capable. The entities engaging in this pattern of conduct, and I want to be clear, federal stalking on the internet, substantial delay of the internet, uploading it, and also the harassment that the gang stalking housekeeper, the gang stalking groundskeeper, the gang stalking quote-unquote manager, MEJIA, that's going to stay on the record, that's fine. Whoever he is and whatever his actual position is, that ongoing audible activity, that's criminal activity, and then the substance of that criminal activity that I'm subject to, while also that business is aiding hitmen like Jason Fields, acting with hitmen of the Ontario Police in furtherance of my murder, all to get away with and to continue stealing money that you're not getting. And there will not even be my evidence. This P.O.C, this podcast is letting everybody know what's going to happen. There will be no conversation. I would never be entertaining any demon that's engaged in what is swimming between the legs of this upright cockroach, Tracy Banks. They're both psychopaths having sex, jumping on top of each other. They're hellbound demons, unrepentant psychopaths who are being embarrassed for engaging in what is witchcraft, which shows they're mentally ill. They're not magical, they're mental. They are mental. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct as a government's system of organized crime, where, in other words, the popularization of what is satanic practices, which they found to be feckless, ineffectual, weak, not giving the results that they thought. And so now everyone's looking as crazy as they've always been. They've been deceived by Satan, thinking that they're this and thinking that they're that and thinking that they're going to accomplish this and that they're going to, you're none of that. You're crazy. And you're also crazy while you engage in this pattern of conduct in front of everyone. This is the P.O.C. Ontario Airport Inn is located at 1801 East G Street. They're not the first third party to engage in targeting me with gang stalking police departments. Monrovia Police in Monrovia, California. The Monrovia Police Department gang stalking me by a black helicopter while I'm at that hotel, and the fake sun is present over me, I believe after 6 p.m. during daylight savings time. The Ontario Police Department gang stalking me by helicopter at the Baymont Inn by Wyndham, at the Ramada by Wyndham, at the Motel 6 by helicopter as well, at the Economy Inn at 231 South Euclid Avenue, gang stalking by helicopter at all of those aforesaid venues. And the entity is engaging in that, and that's again stalking by helicopter conspicuously. The entities engaged in, they spend millions of dollars on criminal surveillance. And that's also how you know, first of all, it's a government system. Every hotel, in other words, those are businesses that are represented, are sharing in state surveillance, while that pattern, which is substantial, not coincidental, is implicating everyone else at the same time. And then you're talking about science. The entity's tethered to an environment that is supernatural, where that ongoing pattern is a matter of evidence. The entity's doing so, it's just a nuance. Semantics when you're going from my apartment at Alvarado Gardens, an apartment complex where I'm the property manager, and a hotel. But nonetheless, I have evidence with regard to the entity that's engaged in commercial stalking. The third-party innkeepers, you're stalking me by helicopter at the Hilton. Okay, that's the Azusa police. No one forgot that. And it's under the fake sun. The entity's doing so while Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks, the pedophile and the homosexual, that are engaged in what are conspiring my murder via gang stalking. Gang stalking is designed to result in what is criminal defamation. That's the government that's targeting you, and the government that's presenting itself as being legitimate, having authority under the law, having jurisdiction over your person and property when it in fact does not. And that is by design in order to be the one that is depicting you as a criminal, depicting you as mentally ill. They do so. That is the avenue to get to what is taking your property against your will, taking your liberty against your will, while they are actually engaged in criminal surveillance. That is kidnapping. That is defamation of a criminal nature in furtherance of an unlawful objective to steal the work of Satan. They're demons at that. They're demons under a fake sun. It is impossible that you have that pattern of conduct over and over and over again, but for it being the exact system that I stated. And it is the direct evidence that the mentally ill so-called executor, the entities engaging in the P.O.C, and those are the ones that, and that's what I mean, the so-called conservator, the so-called executor, the so-called one with power of attorney, they're the ones who are mentally ill. In fact, while they sought to defame me, the one who's been prosecuting them the whole time. And this is not to be proud. This is the reality. The one who did so in a genius manner, connecting what is the greater criminal purpose, showing it in an organized manner. And you thought that because of your gang violence, it requires corruption, that an ignoramus would be confident in even trying this in the first place. They're relying on the ordinary target individual having no evidence. They're relying on numbers. So you bring in a whole bunch of demons lying on that American citizen in a courtroom. That courtroom is gang stalking. That courtroom is gang stalking with those that are coming in and lying on your character. These are legal terms. That's perjury. And that's just the beginning. That's perjury upon federal group stalking and monitoring. Perjury in furtherance of murder. You're not just getting 5 years. This is an entity that's engaging in that, and these are fools that are doing it while I'm at the hotel. I will be connecting videos for you to look at what is impossible for one person to make up. And it is impossible that you are anything other than engaging in the pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder, engaging in criminal defamation, while you are seeking to, under any circumstances, assert that which is not only illogical, it is legally irrelevant. Upon evidence of targeting, there's not even any discussion about an American citizen's mind state. You did that because you sought to steal from me. And you thought the best way to do that would be to try to silence me by trying to color me in a certain manner. But that would have required that I never opened my mouth, that I never documented anything, that I never exposed anything successfully. Now you are wearing your mental illness on the outside. The more that Luis Mejia talks, the more triggered he is by my sensible questions that I'm entitled to an answer for, actually. The more I go from what is sleeping outside to a hotel room, and I can't seem to avoid being harassed by helicopters in an environment that is on its face extraordinary. And it's all directly relevant to what is the government's failed system exposing what is a threat. It's a threat to the public. It is a matter of what is national security, and the federal government is engaging in what is permitting it at this point. Well, we were past this point. I was stating this months ago when the entity kidnapped me from Woodside Senior Apartments. And then what happened? They engaged in kidnapping. Do you understand what the federal government were prepared to do if I were not maintaining my own investigation and documenting that? They would have left me kidnapped in that facility and gone on, and you never would have heard anything from me. I'm prosecuting the federal government. They are not helping. They are not protecting. They certainly are not dissuading blatant acts of terrorism by hitmen such as the Ontario Police Department. They feel and are convinced that it's perfectly comfortable for them to maintain that ongoing pattern of conduct. And this is the same with the federal government, because it's going to reflect right back in a criminal case for people with real names and identities and interests that they are incapable of protecting, because you're going to federal prison for terrorism. Terrorism that you facilitated, terrorism that you sat back and watched like a sicko. And then you want to double, oh, no, I was investigating. No, you were not. No, you were not. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged. The government is bullying American citizens that it seeks to murder. And this is the evidence. I want to be clear. Fields is not only going to prison, Fields is severely deranged. And this is someone that plotted to murder me. And plot twist is I'm not going anywhere, and there will also not be a conversation. When your co-defendants start hunting you down, that's called a personal problem. This is an entity that's engaged in what is gang stalking me, and I'm going to prosecute you. Period. This is P.O.C.